Alright, what is going on, guys? Here we are with the draft stream for Season 5 of the UBL. Thanks to everyone who joined into the chat. Be sure to use !UBL so you can find out who are all playing in this season, and we'll be going over their teams in this stream. Now, throughout the stream, some coaches might join or not, so we're going to see how that will all go. But before we are going to jump into that, a quick preview of how this season will work. And don't worry, Facecam and everything will be here once we get into the actual picks. So, we're going to start off with the upload day, which for this season will be Sunday instead of Wednesday, which it was last season. And moving forward, we will have the draft recaps going live tomorrow on the channel of all the coaches, which again, !UBL on the chat to find out all the channels where they will be uploaded. And week 1 battles will go up the week after, week 2 the week after that, etc. all the way to 8 weeks each upload on Sunday. This time 16 coaches in total with no divisions like last season. Last season we had a split draft to ensure everyone got a good enough team, but with all the mods available now, it is easier for us to just have one draft, 16 coaches in total, and given the time when we think the DLC will come out, we'll be going with 8 random weeks, no rematches in that. We only have an estimate of when the second DLC will come out, which we predict to be during the playoffs, but no matter what it comes out, anything through the second DLC is not allowed to be used no matter when it comes out, because during the draft it wasn't. Transfer moves are allowed, and we'll still be using the 10-minute chess timer. A few more things here. The ban list you can see on the screen was all there. It's pretty obvious from everything going on. The only thing really new are some new bans for mods coming back. Complex bans, so Cinderace cannot use Libero, and just like last season, Como cannot use Clara Soul. And other than that, just the standard things. I'm not going to spend too much time here with that. And furthermore, the draft order is here on the screen right now. We have the Bristol Drifloons, the New Jersey Brobats, Warcoastal War Turtles, West Virginia Miniors, Nightwing Nuzleafs, Helsinki Hydreigans, Scandinavia Stoutlands, Orange Douglets, Crystal Palestines, Detroit Steelwings, Wakanda Weefiles, God of Our Guardians, New Britain Rockruffs, Atlanta Victinis, New Orleans Saint Rose, and the Copenhagen Saucebox. Now, I will be going, also one quick adjustment here. Unlike last season, this season we will be drafting 11 mons instead of 10, and we will also have 100 more points than we had last season. But looking at this, we do have some coaches that have joined us in chat, so let me unmute myself real quick, and there we go. Let's see, we have Versus in here.
Hey man, can you hear me?
I can, and the chat should be too. And we are also joined by Skyrender.
Oh, hi everyone.
Hello, and we'll see if more coaches will tag along during the stream. And obviously, if anyone has to leave, if anyone can join, it would be awesome. And if not, we're just going to continue on with the draft and starting off with the picks. But before we jump in, any of you want to say something, forgot something, or everything good?
I think you are alright. I'm really pumped for the stream because I have not seen all of the teams yet, to be honest. So let's wait for it.
Yeah, there we go. We're gonna go over this. We're gonna go over starting off with the number 1 pick, a one that I was hopefully to get, but when I was 5th, it was kind of obvious I wasn't going to. We're gonna start off with Dr. Slacking picking up Urshifu's Single Strike, which is a new mod added to the game through the DLC. Fighting in Dark, so the typing of Bangoro, but with a lot more speed. So, anyone has anything else to say about this monster, which has very little switch hints, to be fair?
Yeah, I hate it. It's such a tough beast to deal with. Like, it's tough enough on Smoke or Human Draft League. It requires so much of a player to get this guy right. So, really good catch up from Dr. Slacker and getting this mon early.
Guarantee crits.
Yeah, precisely.
Guarantee crits. What do you want more? I guess the only thing that this thing lacks is knockoff. It could be viable in the draft league format mainly, but I think critting is a good good alternative for that. So let's move on to the second mon that we have here, which is the New Jersey Brobats. We're going to pick up a Dragapult for 200 points as well, which currently, from what we have seen, Dragapult has been kind of dominating the meta. It has been by far the best performing Pokemon in singles Draft League so far. So again, something that I would have wanted to have, but I'm definitely not surprised to see this go second overall, especially with how spammable Ghost types are.
Yeah, and a good
Actually,
elite speed.
Yeah, Dragapult is such a beast because I think if you have to deal with it, you always have to go Choice Scarf on your mons. And that's so predictable for a player who has the Dragapult. He knows somewhere is the Scarf.
And even something crazier is that Dragapult itself, if it runs a Choice Scarf, will even be able to outspeed certain sand abusers or sun abuse. Like, this thing can outspeed things like Excadrill under sand with a Choice Scarf, which is actually insane. And really only has to fear Zeraora really for its speed tier in this current metagame.
Yeah, and I mean, it got the luxury of actually going Adamant and Modest versus a lot of matchups, so it's tough.
For sure. Then going on to Lucky Wolf, one of the new coach in the league, grabbing Togekiss round 1. And Togekiss has always been one of those mons where I don't like facing it, and I also don't like drafting it for some reason. Like, I cannot make it perform, but every time I face it, it's a pain.
Yeah, I feel. I'm just gonna go at it and say, if you've done this guy right, like basically, if you can predict the matchup right, you are having a trouble with this Pokemon because it can either go really bulky or being very good at wall breaking. And depending on what you're built against it, you can be very heavily punished early.
And especially with this thing getting access to Aura Sphere, make it so that it can actually hit Steel types. So you're basically relying on like bulky electric types to not get too much flinched down by this thing, which is also a thing. And also one thing they do is they chose to go for a lower price mon, so they have some more points to spend on later in the draft, and we'll see some different strategies going on. Here, as we also have another mon that's lower-ish, like 160 is still decently high, but we have Rillaboom going to Ultra Player and the West Virginia Miniors. Now, to be honest, I'm surprised to see both Togekiss and Rillaboom go this early, but I guess this is also one of those cases where, especially Rillaboom, I would be really surprised if it made it all the way back to Ultra Player here.
Yeah, to be honest, Rillaboom is... I was also thinking Rillaboom would be a good choice, but going on place number 4 is so crazy. But, I mean, if you have no idea, you can only play Choice Band plus Grassy Glide and go for stuff. And that's the thing I love about Rillaboom so much. If you really have no idea, Rillaboom is still great, and your opponent has to bring something to wall Rillaboom really hard.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Pokemon that kind of opened up other players where Unburdened Pokemon, it is the best terrain abuser right now. So it has a flexibility, but it has that vision with your remaining Pokemons, which I think is easily to do as your first pick.
I'm pretty sure we'll see Hawlucha pick on this team later on, so that's something that we'll see. But like, I think Blunder said this, like, we kind of have to define the meta into two spots right now. Like, one half that doesn't deal with Rillaboom and the other half that does. So,
sounds about right.
Also, we have JV now joining into the call. How are you doing?
Hello. How you doing?
Let's then move on to my pick number 5. We're gonna scoop up Necrozma, which I have multiple options here, and I debated a lot of mons here with my front office, but in the end we felt the most safe with Necrozma. Like I said, I was semi-hoping for Urshifu, but I kinda knew that wasn't going to make it, and Necrozma is a mon I'm really comfortable building with, and also people really struggle facing, so even though there might be some other options that people say like, hey, why don't you grab this? I felt most comfortable with Necrozma together with Aegislash, but already Aegislash and WB, so kinda want to take a similar route. So that's the reason why we're gonna have the Necrozma pick here. And after that, one of the mons that we already touched on and that I was also debating on picking but went against is Zeraora going to the Helsinki Dragons and the reigning champions, Vepsis. So anyone has something on the Zeraora?
I must say the Zeraora, I expected it to go way earlier. I was really surprised to see it going around that long, because you have that high speed here. It's the same as Dragapult, you always have to plan on it. you always have to go to Scarf or Sticky Webs or anything. If you don't do that, Zero Aura is so easy to sweep your whole team. So I'm really interested how that will work on his team as a reigning champion.
And I really like how fondly we talk about Zeraora. We know it's obsolete in 8 weeks, so yeah, hey, Zeraora. Coco's gonna replace it.
Yeah, I think the one key difference here with like Dragapult, which got mentioned, which shares like a similar speed here, is that the stab of Dragapult might be a bit more spammable in Ghost than Electric is for Zeraora, especially because if you want to hit the ground types, you have to bring special with Grass Knot. I think that's maybe the one thing, but it's still, like I said, it's the only thing where that comes close to Dragapult's speed here, so it's definitely worth something. Then if we move on to the next pick, we have Skyrander yourself, also picking one of the monsters I was debating picking myself, but went against. But can you explain the Melmetal here? As he just leaves the call when it's his pick, like that's definitely there's definitely a play to make. There he is, Skyrander, Melmetal.
The only thought process was that, hey, it's still around, let's get it. I had no vision whatsoever, so basically I just felt that I never get to use this Pokemon again, so I just got it.
Yeah,
that was the same thing I was thinking. I thought when Melmetal is there, I will pick it because it's banned in so many draft formats and in so many leagues, and I thought, okay, I don't know what Melmetal is doing at all. I know it's hitting hard, but I want it. So I totally get your idea.
Yeah, my issue with, which is why I went against it, is that this thing has always been like brought up to be like really broken, but usually doesn't perform to that extent. Like when you see it being played, it's usually it gets like 1 kill and then it dies, or it gets no kills and dies, or maybe like 2 in 1. But the lack of speed and speed depth is something that is really hindered so far. But maybe Skyrander is like, you're an hyper offensive player, so it might be more of your ally.
I agree with you. Like the reason it worked so well in OU was because there were synergies that allowed it to work. So my thought was after this was basically, how did I negate others to get synergies to wall this thing?
And of course in OU, Clef's a bitch, which is on every team, so Melmetal's good, but there's one Clefable in here, so that's the thing. Then moving on to Johnny GB, who picks up the other Urshifu, which I was also debating, but in the end didn't go with. I guess the one thing is that this is a little bit, like water is maybe a little bit less of a spammable stab than dark is, but this thing still hits like a truck, and if you don't have like a really bulky water type, you're definitely gonna have a bad time, especially with the thing getting Thunder Punch and U-turn and stuff like that. And an interesting speed tier as well at 97.
I think it's really
this
cool.
guy's phenomenal in rain teams.
I think it's really cool that you have the 3 strike attack, so that even if you go Focus Sash, you have no guarantee to stop that. And if you really cripple the team, then the Surging Strikes will simply kill the rest of the team. And that's what I think is so good about it. And you said the speed tier 97 is really rare, so totally interesting.
I also see there are bits being made in the chat. If someone donates $100, someone will drop Skyrander's team for week 1.
The fuck?
Hey, I also like that money goes to me and not the Sky, so I would like that, but... Let's move on to the next pick. Silver Beanie in the Crystal Palisades picking up Hydreigon, who has been one of the more, like, besides Dragapult, has been the most dominating dragon we had in this format so far. Of course, Dark is a really good stab along with Dragon, and this thing also got, like, Dragon has got, like, nasty plot to abuse. And in general, I use it in Gen 8 myself, and I definitely like it way more in Gen 8 than in Gen 6 and 7. Skyrim, did you have this last season, or?
Yeah, I did. And for all I care, like, what makes Hydreigon great is, while it's a good wall breaker, it is that you have the options to do more things. You can be more defensive, you can taunt, you can root, you can defog. It basically fills the need or niches to potentially what matchups it desire. Yes, it's a phenomenal wall breaker, but having more options makes it more unpredictable. So I like it.
Yes, for sure. Then going to Seabat and the Detroit Steel Wings picking up Exadrill, which...
Oh, I wonder what this team is going to be about.
I wonder too. Which, to be fair, they have options. They could indeed choose to go the T-Tar route like a lot of people do. They could choose to pick up Hippowdon later on. They can choose to pick up Gigalith at a later point in the draft, which, to be fair, I personally am more into the Hippowdon or Gigalith route rather than spending so many points on T-Tar, but we'll see what they end up going for and what they end up picking up. Next up, Moet and the Wakana Weavers picking up Mr. Fish, who I don't think even did all that great last season in the UBL, but this thing is still very centralizing indeed. So, everyone, I think it's time to grab your water absorbers.
Like, I have all the memories of like the 3 versus 3 Dynamax where people use the Whimsicott with Tailwind and this was just, it was just not that good to play. I hated it. Every time I see Fish, I was like, ooh, you're gonna see Whimsicott here too?
Well, at least there's no Dynamax in here, so that
Thank
helps.
God.
Then next we have Versus Pick, who is gonna grab the best fairy in the format in Clefable.
Yeah, that's also the whole reason to pick it, because I thought I would love to have a good fairy type, and they are normally gone very, very early in draft leagues, in my opinion, and therefore I decided to go for Clefable, because I think what's so great about it is the 2 abilities. If you have a mons which can set up immensely good on you, you can always play the Unaware, and that's not that big of a deal. You can set them up, because you know Clefable can come in and clean that. And I think, yeah, the variety, and maybe the biggest reason, I don't want anyone else to have Clefable, so I don't have to play it.
Oh, you did
That's-
good, man.
That's all.
Alright, then moving on to Diet and the new Britain Rockbros, which this thing actually lasted quite a while, but they're gonna pick up Aegislash, which I know a lot of people have been saying Aegislash has been nerfed with all the with the drops in the stats it got, but to be fair, Aegislash cares little about that. Just as the nature of the mon, how spammable it is, getting access to close combat, so it can hit normal and dark types. Like, this thing on its own has perfect coverage, and pretty much the only thing that holds it back a little bit is its speed stat, but other than that, this thing is an absolute monster.
Oh yeah, it's one of the better steel types in the game.
Mm-hmm.
No debate.
And also one of the final 200-point mon, I think there are only... Sorry, actually this might be the final one there. I think all the others have been picked so far. And then we're gonna move on to JV, who are gonna pick up Rodon Heat, who are also gonna dive into the 140 category, just like the Turkish pick we saw earlier.
As all of the mods I wanted to build around, like, literally got snagged. So I was like, if I'm gonna, because there was no chance I was gonna get Rotom Heat round 2, if anything, because it's just a great versatile mon. So I was like, I'm just gonna snag it now and snipe other people, and just
You sure did.
and get my top tier mons later.
I had it last season, and it definitely was really fun to be using in the current format, and a very good timing here since we have Olivia joining the chat. And
Yes.
you want to touch on your
Welcome.
round 1 pick?
Okay, so I originally had thought, I'm gonna get a high pick. I really had I'm gonna get a high pick mentality. I saw I got 15. It was very sad. Couldn't get her Shifu single, so I didn't really care what I got. And Josh had recently bullied me for putting Blossom in a thumbnail a couple days ago. So I told him, getting it round 1 in the next sleep. Well, I'm getting it in my next draft just to spite you. And he said, I'm going to snipe it. So I said, no, I'm going to get it round 1. So I did. I got Blossom. And I told Josh, if he got Thwacky instead of Rillaboom, I would have made this a Gloom. He did not take me up on that. I was very sad. Very hurt.
He made the weenie play.
Yeah,
he
he
made
made the
the
weenie
weenie.
play. This is a good Dragovish counter, though. I got it. Strength stat was really good. Get a Quiver Dance up in the sun. I think it quite literally does 11% to me, even without Fizz Death. It's legitimately insane. This mod is really good, in my opinion. I'm trying to tear through teams with it, especially Moets. Bringing it hopefully every week, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Then moving on to Frosted, who is at the wheel here. So they're going to make 2 picks back-to-back, starting off with Alolan Ninetales for 120 points. So this opens up a lot of ways to abuse Hail, and like maybe picking up a Alolan Sandslash later on, or to pick up some setup threats alongside, and that's also what they're going to do. They're going to pair it up with Como-O, which cannot use Grinder Soul, but still this thing behind Veil in Dragonlance can do a crazy amount of work here.
Actually, Como-O is one of the reasons why I picked Clefable, because that's what I'm talking about. 1 Dragon Dance after that reel, and it's completely over if you don't have that good answers. And yeah, especially the wheel. You can set up wheel at any moment in the game for Ninetales, and that's what I really think makes it work. If you have it round 1, you can plan your whole draft around that. Which Pokemon are good behind the wheel, so really good pick for round 1, even if it's not the highest pick, I guess.
And also one thing to keep in mind is I've used this thing many times defensively too, or like bulky offensive, and the fact this thing gets like Iron Defense, Body Press, Stealth Rocks, Drain Punch, like it's really versatile in that way, so we're gonna see what they can do. But then moving back to the New Orleans Saints now, where they're gonna pick up Kyurem, so now we are spending some points, not just 40 point months all the way through.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that the whole draft. I just had to get it round 1. But I thought Kieran was actually, it surprised me a bit. I don't know why, but I always see this thing go later than it should, which in my opinion, it's like a top 10 mon. I'm shocked that it got it to me round 2, but I'll take it. Great speed, great typing. Boots make this thing basically broken. Can do pretty much anything. Choice sets are great. Obviously, as I mentioned, boots are great. Insanely good coverage. I just love it. Really cool Dragonets as well as Shen and Freeze Dry. Just has pretty much unrivaled coverage with stabs.
Yeah, I'm not
Don't
sure.
forget
Like
pressure solving.
Yeah.
Pressure as well, but like Freeze
Oh,
Dry,
pressure.
Earth Power, I think it even gets Psychic, Channel Ball, like there's like no high base power move accurate that this thing doesn't get for some reason.
Yeah.
Also gets Focus Blast. I'm not sure who did Kieran's move pool, but they were like, yeah, let's just give everything, you know?
Yeah, just why not?
it needs it. Then moving back to Jade, you're gonna pick up Sylveon, so the second 140 point mon, and with Clefable being gone, one of the better fairies on the draft board, possibly.
And yeah, like you said, and like Versus said, good fairy types are very hard to get early round. So, it's just one of those things. No way Sylveon was gonna come back, so just had to pick it up to get my good fairy out the way. Because I mean, Gardevoir is not bad. It's just Sylveon is bulkier and can be just as offensive as Gardevoir. It's just not as fast.
Yeah, when the options are there, spec Sylveon can really put in the mobile work. Then going to the New Britain Rockruffs again, we're going to pick up Keldeo to pair it up with Aegislash. So they're actually going to choose to pick a 200 point mon and a 180 mon after, so they're going to be spending big time in the early rounds. But in general, this thing is probably one of the better offensive mons, high tier that was left on the board. Especially since this thing does get Air Slash now, it's really hard to wall. You cannot really try your grass type anymore. And in general, I've been seeing this thing also like with like spec Sacred Swords to shove most grass types anyways. So it's pretty hard to deal with. Flip turn as well in this generation, good speed here. So this can be a very annoying mon to deal with together with Aegislash.
For sure.
Then going on to Versus, who's like, hey, you know what, we're gonna annoy the league a little bit more, so we're gonna pick up Skarmory together with Clefable.
I don't know if I should feel bad or not, because that's normally the team I hate to play against, so I
was like, yeah,
wanted
you
to
answer that question on your own.
Yeah, and I wanted to be that guy that you hate to play, so I thought Clefable, Skarmory. In the end, when I see my whole draft, it's really hard if you spend so many points on defensive mons on the top to get really the power on the bottom. So I think that's also has a downside, but of course the Clefable, Skarmory defensive core is pretty easy to play in any game, and everyone has to prepare for that. But I know I'm hated for that. I would hate me as well.
It's like good combo. Like we might hate you, but we're real jealous of it.
Yeah. That's true. Then going on to Moas, we're going to pick up Ferrothorn, which of course is a really great pickup to pair with Dracofish, as this thing will be able to deal with most water absorbers that they will be switching in on Dracofish. So having something that can reliably switch in on those water types is going to be very important. And of course he enables himself a way for spikes, stealth rocks, anything to chip things down for the Ferrothorn, and steel types in general are limited. So, this will definitely not last, and that's why he secured himself a good steel type here.
I think that Ferrothorn is gotten a lot better because Hidden Power Fire is not there anymore in Sword and Shield. And without the Hidden Power, it's so much easier to protect for the team.
The only issue is that a lot of fairies got actually Mystical Fire. That's something you have to keep in mind, but not everyone did. So there's at least something. Then moving on to Seaband, who is not going to pick a Sand Setter yet, but they're going to pick Toxtricity, which ground poison types, so it's good for those absorbing toxic spikes. However, 2 offensive threats, both weak to ground. So that's something that he is probably going to look at later in the draft, but this thing as a special breaker is really cool. And even though it's a little bit slow, If he gets his Sand Setter later on, he has that with Exodrill, so speed shouldn't be that much of an issue at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it wins versus every, like, fairy types in the game anyway, so it's a phenomenal switch in for that. Plus pivoting.
For sure. Then we're going to go on to the Crystal Polysats, who are also going to pick up Steel types, so the Steel types are are going fast. We just saw Ferrothorn, we saw some others before. We now have Cobalion here going to Silver Beanie, who... Cobalion is a really interesting Steel type. It's not your typical one that's really bulky, but it has a lot of speed, it has a lot of moves actually, with also things like Taunt and Full Switch, which you wouldn't expect from this thing. Stealth Rock Access too, and as soon as you can get around this thing not being your typical Steel type, it's actually a very good one in the current metagame, especially with the speed set that it does have.
Yeah, it's versatile. It's really versatile.
I actually think the biggest issue it may have is that it's a Steel that doesn't resist Fairy. I think that's important, especially when you have a Hydreigon, but they could of course draft some other Fairy resist later on in the draft, so there's still options for that. And again, Steel types are going, and they're going fast, with Scizor going to the Orange Douglas here, being paired up with Urshifu Rapid Strike, which I've seen a combination before with Urshifu Single Strike, and it's actually a pretty nasty combination to have to deal with, especially since both do get U-turn and both do hit really hard on the physical side. I'm not sure if it's... I think... Does anyone here play him? Does anyone play this?
I'm not sure.
I don't, and I'm happy I don't have to face this combo. Then moving on to Skyrander here, who picks up a Mon that's often being picked up with Melmetal, but you can't really disagree. I really like Rotom Washi in the draft like format, especially since it's got Defog. Should be a good ground immunity and also a good momentum gainer for Melmetal to do its thing.
I'm just gonna say this, Jaden, I wanted that Rotom Heat. You ruined my draft. No.
I don't think you can really complain with Rotom Wash either.
So, Rotom Wash is probably like the second best thing to kind of like, it's better checks towards Melmetal. So my reason was basically get that so nobody can check it properly.
I mean, that's a good route to go on. Then more water types here. Veps is picking up Slowbro, who has been picking it up quite oftenly actually in Generation 8 so far, which, to be fair, this thing with Regenerator and the bulk it has, with the limited amount of mons in this deck, it does make for a very good additional mon on your team, bulky water type, and also with Teleport on this thing, which is now a momentum move, together with your Generator, this thing is really, really hard to break through.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It definitely is, and also very worthy 140 points for him. Then moving on to my other pick here, which I'm also going to be big spender here. I'm going to spend 180 points on Terrakion, which I did not know. I did not notice until I actually drafted it again. But apparently, I'm the only one who has drafted Terrakion before in the UBL.
Oh.
I'm not sure how, but I'm the only one who did it. And the time I did, I think I got like 80 or 90 or like really high amount of kills. So hopefully we can do that again. And also one thing that's really great about the combination that we have going on here is that obviously people are going to try to use Dark types to deal with Minor Crossma. But now every time you have your Dark type in first Minor Crossma, you do have to watch out for giving my Terrakion a Justified boost, which makes that thing even harder to deal with. I think the only thing I have to pray for is that this thing is not going to miss all the stone edges. That's one thing, but if it doesn't, we're all fine, and it's great here.
I really was considering Terrakion myself, but I was kind of feeling for more Conkeldurr. Terrakion is like phenomenal. Awesome pickup.
Then moving on to Ultra Player, who is going to pick up Jirachi, and actually one pick before this could have potentially made it back to Lucky Wolf, who already had Togekiss. So at least he prevented the core from being here, but in general no one likes to face this thing. It's so versatile, like probably next to Mew the most versatile mon we have in the format. I don't know about you, but every time I face this, I just have no idea what to prep for. I really don't.
That's really the thing about Jirachi. You can play it physically defensive, you can play it specially defensive, you have rocks, you can simply spam Body Slam plus Iron Head. And I really thought if I should go Jirachi instead of Skarmory, because I thought Jirachi would fit with Clefable as well. And it's really so annoying because the last mode you have, you can always Thunder Wave, you can always Body Slam, and it's really unlikely that you don't get anything out of that, and that makes Jirachi such a good mon.
And like as long as there's a Jirachi in the game, you have a win con. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you have a win con.
that's it.
You have a win con. Now they're going on to Lucky Wolf, who is gonna pick up Conkeldurr alongside with
I
Togekiss.
swear this man.
I mean, we Sky and me both love ourselves some Conkeldurr. So.
Yeah, I was also on that Conkeldurr camp. Very, very sad to see it go. One of so many mons I got sniped by Lucky Wolf.
The thing is, I felt I ruined myself. I showed I was gonna get Kong. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You try that.
So
Yeah, to be fair, this thing has, especially seen in the start, has been such an anti-meta mod where it just disrupts a lot of teams naturally that can really not switch in on this thing. For some reason, it can far away rocks as well right now. I'm not sure why this thing gets defucked, but it does. But in general,
Gotta swing those big those concrete bricks.
yeah, I
yeah,
guess,
just
I
swinging
guess
around
so.
with wings.
I guess so. And moving on to Rude and the New Jersey Brobats, we're going to pick up Tangrowth together with Dragapult. So they are not necessarily going for any course here right now, but they just decided, you know what, Tangrowth's one of the better defensive mons, might as well snack it up now and build something around it later.
I was very surprised he didn't go with Mandibuzz.
Yeah, same. I
Yeah,
really
right.
like
Yeah.
that
That was a
combination.
pretty free pick.
I really do, but hey, maybe there's a next pick and he will do it. Because we're now at the other side of the wheel and we're gonna have Dr. Slacking picking up Scolipede together with Urshifu Single Strike. So when Urshifu Single Strike is done breaking through your team, he has the late game winning condition of Scolipede here, which is very threatening to face. And they're gonna also pair it up with Primarina, so the position he puts himself in right now is Physical Breaker, Special
I look
Breaker,
forward
Cleaner.
to face this guy. Started slacking. Your team is not that good. Stop.
Wow, you're so mean. I don't want to play against. Like, I can't give that totally.
I don't want to deal with this.
Well, you're gonna have to. Moving on to Rude again, though, who are gonna add even more speed together with the Dragapult. And now also have Barraskewda, which of course does get flip turn for momentum, so now I guess they have a physical and a special breaker with really high speed on their team, so they're gonna have that together with Tangrowth, which probably has to form some of the defensive backbone here. I hope this indeed Mandibuzz does not make it back to them, because they could make it really annoying. Just hope someone does pick it up here. Unfortunately not Lucky Wolf, we're gonna pick up Crocodile, which is one of my favorite dark types in this format, to be honest. Like, it's a very
scale
underrated
shock.
mon for a long time. Now people seem to finally appreciate Crocodile a little bit more for what it does. Two really must-have typings in both Dark and Ground. Intimidate, Moxie, Stealth Rock, Knock Off. You know, this thing is just really splashable, and like everyone that drafts it brings it like, what, 80-90% of games when you're in the league?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's simply because you have Intimidate plus Moxie. You can play it the Intimidate way, completely defensive, throw up some rocks, or you can go Moxie late game. And I think I would take Crocodile every game if I would have drafted it 100%.
Oh, same.
For
Yeah,
sure.
no, that was mod number 2 of 5 that Lucky Wolf took from me, and it was my backup to Conk. So it was very sad.
Very sad. Oh, well,
That's
then we're
rough.
gonna move on to Ultra Player, who's gonna pick up Arcanine, which is probably one of my, if not my favorite, fire type in this entire format, because Arcanine can, I've said this multiple times, Arcanine can literally do everything, barring setting up and setting hazards and removing them. Like, other than that, Arcanine can do pretty much anything, especially with all the moves we got into Generation 2. And also one of those things where it's really hard to call sometimes, this thing's gonna be offensive or defensive. Scorching Sands, which is obviously the ground variant of Scald, is really enjoyable on Arcanine 2. Teleport 2. This thing is just really a monster, really hard to deal with, but I'm gonna get my own fire type here. And I wasn't looking at the Arcanine, I was looking at this one, so I'm really happy it brought it back to me. Which is gonna be Cinderace, which I'm gonna draft again with an Necrozma. And what this does for me is it gives me way more speed than my drafts usually have. I already have a Cinderace and a Terrakion, which obviously both are very fast. And across my sitting there too, Cinderace of course with U-turn will give me momentum for mainly Terrakion. And another offensive mod my opponents really have to respect. Core changes clutch, like I said, U-turn, high jump kick. So this thing together with Terrakion can deal with dark types, can deal with bug types, can deal with normal types, like, not normal, what's the other thing? It's steel types that Acrossman doesn't usually like taking on, so we have the coverage for that and try to take it all on. Of course, this thing is without Libero, so otherwise would have been also a much higher price, so that's not really
I just
what
want
we're
to like say a thing here, Odo. I like that both Arcanine and Cinderace are drafted back to back, because Arcanine, of course, right now defined as the Cinderace counter for the suspect of Cinderace, and it's just so like they are both really good. And I mean, I'm pretty sure you both ruined drafts here because you got probably the best fire types in the game, or at least for this draft.
And indeed, this does look like my EOL trophy draft is just Terrakion instead of Conkeldurr now, because I don't think Terrakion was around there. We're gonna draft one more member, and I actually think it's gonna be next round when we're gonna we're gonna do that. And from there, we're gonna take a different approach. As an EOL trophy, I felt like. I mean, the EOL trophy, I felt like my team was kind of top heavy. I'm gonna try a different. I'll talk more about it in my draft recap because we can spend hours on my picks here, but we're gonna see that. Then moving on to probably the kill leader of this season. We're gonna have Helsinki Dragons picking up Diggersby. You have some good memes about Diggersby being in Vebs' hands, so I'm glad I don't have to face that thing in the regular season, let me say you that, because it's almost the same as what we already said with Jirachi. If Vebs plays and his Diggersby is still in the game at full, there might be, there's a win count there. There is a win count there.
I was really expecting Rest Talk.
Rest Talk Diggersby.
Yeah, my count's like, I think I predicted 11 Rest Talk sets through the season, with 9 of them being unique or something. It was something like that. I know I put it somewhere.
I mean, to be fair, this thing gets cheek power to recycle, right? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that's why we use it. Yeah.
I don't think with the slow brother he's gonna use the Diggersby defensively, but you never know. They go to Skyrunner, who is the first one to dip all the way down to 40, picking up Scyther, which obviously got a boost with the dual wing beats right now, together with Ignition in this generation.
To be honest, I was flustered here. I lost Conk, and I felt I was timer stalling. So I felt fucking. I saw Scyther was in low price range. I think let's get the draft moving. So I just get it. So the rhyme or reason, I don't know. It's there.
Hey man, this thing counts as Conk.
It's a defogger.
The only issue I still have with Scyther though is obviously it's good here, but you always have that debate between E-Violet and heavy duty boots for this thing.
Oh yeah.
There's one thing that's kind of holding it back, but dueling these definitely makes it way more of a relevant threat. Then one of the other premier fire types going with Cinderace and Arcanine already being picked this round, but we're gonna have the Douglas here picking up Incineroar, which is also one of my favorite fire types in this generation. Of course, it's a dark type. We already touched on how important those are. Parting Shot is there too, Knockoff. In general, a really versatile mon with Intimidate as well, which is really hard to deal with. And also, possibly, it's a very good way for him because he keeps building on that momentum. Like, he has U-turn, Parting Shot right now on his team.
I also think that the Incineroar is so good because it's the same as Arcanine. You can play it in so many different ways. I mean, I have it in the moment in the WBE. I mean, it's double format, but I also see it there. You can play it in so many different ways. You can also simply going for some stuff like the Will-O-Wisp, really defensive. And I think if you play that kind of team here, U-turn, you just have to keep in mind maybe a Wish Pokemon, especially for the Incineroar and the Urshifu, which can't heal themselves. That would be really, really good here. If you get that later on, Incineroar is really hard to beat.
Or you're gonna pull that and Vebs and you're gonna run Rest Talk. That's possible too.
Yeah.
Then moving on to Silver Bean, you're gonna pick up Toxapex here. So we have that chilling on this team too, which to be fair, they kind of needed. They had 2 offensive mons, and Hydreigon at least is something that can deal with the weakness of Toxapex and like ground and psychic and stuff like that. So with 2 offensive mons here, and now the Toxapex here starting off a potentially defensive core, and also a Toxic Spiker, which is pretty nasty with Hydreigon and Cobalion. So he makes sure that he got his hazards already.
And I mean, this is the Pokemon that makes sure that 20-minute timer never worked. Ever.
Oh, luckily we don't use that.
I'm really glad that this didn't make it back to Versus.
I wouldn't have picked it. I hate Toxapex. The problem is I have to
Well,
battle
you also said
Silver
that about
Beanie week.
Clefable.
Yeah, I have to battle Silver Beanie week 1, and this is so annoying to battle Toxapex. I mean, what should you say about Toxapex? It's simply annoying. That's around.
Simply is. Then going to see that here, we're actually gonna pick up Grimmsnarl, which is a decently good dark and fairy type here. And also something that will provide him screen support for both Exodrill, but I think mainly for Torticity, can really abuse that with the lower speed of the Mon itself. Being behind screens will really make it easier to abuse that Grimmsnarl here. So 3 really good picks here by Seabat overall.
What is so great about Grimmsnarl is a lot of people forget that Grimmsnarl has so much attack. It has 120 attack, and a lot of people forget about that you have that really, really strong Sucker Punch. And that's what I love in Draft League. You can play Grimmsnarl every week with a complete different set and nobody will know. Everyone expects double screens, but as I said, this offensive moves pool, you have Spirit Break, Sucker Punch, Darkest Lariat, moves like Power Whip, Ice Punch. This is really crazy when you don't prepare for that.
Even Nestibot gets too, so that's also a
Yeah.
way. And also, Ultra Player, thanks for those, man. He's also one of coaches, of course, in this season, which if you want to check out all the coaches, !UBL in the chat, and you can find every coach participating. Then moving on to Moet again, who's going to pick up Comfy here for 60 points. So they're going to complete their Fairy Dragon Steel Core in round 3 with Comfy. And as we already said, fairies are going fast, so this is probably one of those things where he really wanted Comfy, so he got it in here. Which I think this thing got some setback with him Power Fire being gone though, and not getting Mystical Fire.
Comfy has Phil Nation Smono you right now as the Dragapult and Hydreigon killer of that meta, and your Shifu for that matter. I'm just gonna have that said. It's like an anti-meta Pokemon that does surprisingly well right now.
Yeah, like the only
Stern
thing it
Power
really
helps a lot,
struggles with
especially
right now
with
is Steel
different
types, even
poisons.
more than always.
Yeah, it's really just the steals, because you can get around poisons now at least.
Yeah, although it does need some setup for that, but it can get around it
Oh, for sure.
eventually. And then Versus was like, you know what? Give me more bulk. Give me my Lodic.
What the hell is going on here?
What should I say? I wanted that defensive core very early. I think I'm out of the... Oh no.
I mean, my Lodic is here now, and at least one thing is that...
Okay, I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
That was weird. maybe the internet said no, don't pick Melodic.
The internet didn't want you to.
I mean it speaks for itself.
You're killing me, man.
The only problem I have with that core so far is that I'm weak to electric mons with Milotic and Skarmory. So you have to think about that. Electric mons are a problem. So it's not perfect.
I also like how you just said, no, I don't enjoy toxic packs with my core, and you casually pick up my Lodic.
But Milotic, in my defense, Milotic is really offensive. Milotic has a lot of power offensively. Toxapex hasn't. So come on, that's okay.
It's different. But... Anyway, moving on to Diet, who's going to pick up Celebi here, which I'm actually a big fan of Celebi in this format. Of course, it does have that 4 times weakness to U-turn, but if you're able to play around that, this thing is actually, because of it has 100 base stats across the board and a phenomenal move pool to work with. So you can really shape this thing in any way that you want it to be used. Of course, it is a switch in for a lot of things that want to switch in on Keldeo, so that's a good one. Does share the Ghost and Dark weakness with Aegis/Del, but Keldeo of course does resist Dark on the Ghost, so he probably has something for that later on.
And,
then moving on to
before we go through here, Signal Beam is no longer in the game.
Single Beam, no, it's not. So at least that's something. Then moving on to JV, it's gonna pick up Magnezone.
It kind of like between Rotom Heat, Sylveon, and Magnezone, you got like great synergy because they all cover each other's weaknesses pretty well. Considering that Rotom Heat has Levitate, and Magnezone is like probably one of the best steel types, I feel, especially with like Analytic, because you got a slow bolt switch, and like if anything wants to switch, it definitely pays the price.
And of course, a lot of steel types are already gone. This was one of them. Like these are now higher tiered ones left. So gotta go fast. But this one was still chilling there. We have Olivia picking up
How was
Corviknight.
this?
Yeah, I think I made a joke about like around when Ultra made his round 3 pick, saying that I would have gotten this if it was around, and then that joke became a reality, and I thought that it actually paired really well. So I was like, yeah, you know, I got sniped to Conk, got sniped to Crook.
And if you don't get frozen, at least it's one of the things that can
Why not?
switch in on
I
Kira.
have nothing to lose. Oh yeah.
If you don't get
Yeah.
frozen, that
As long
is.
as no freezes.
As long as you know freeze it could, so now it can't because you have it. Then going on to Frost, who's at the wheel again, we're gonna have Silvally Foot, which honestly picks up a lot. And especially in this generation with its signature move being boosted to 120 base power shots there, defog, all the typings that you want. So this thing is really a jack of all trades that can probably be brought as like a 6th mon every single week. So she's really setting up for a lot of support here, and she's gonna pair that up with Bronzong again. These are one of the final steel types we have currently, so they're going and
Still
they're
got
going
Mawa,
fast.
it's no problem.
Yeah, there's still Mawa. That's definitely true. Mawa's still there, but
Yeah.
not sure if that's what you want. Let's go back to, even though I picked in WB, I know, but I had H/ along with that, so I have an excuse. I have an extra steel type. Then going to Olivia again, who's gonna pick up Miansha, which a lot of times gets very underrated, even though it has amazing abilities, amazing moves, good speed tier for this generation, and even defensive-wise, it can definitely do a lot of work with Drain Punch too.
Yeah, I really like the speed tier, to be honest. Close combat on it's also really cool because it's an actual high base power fighting move that's not gonna take half, so that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I just thought I was gonna forget to draft a fast mon if I didn't get this now, so I just decided why not.
Then moving
That was a
on.
really good pickup, actually.
Yeah, then moving on to JV again, who's gonna pick up Araquanid, and I mean, getting sticky webs with the so far lower-ish speed that this team has might be really beneficial, but even Araquanid on its own can be, as an offensive threat, really hard to switch in on.
And plus side is water absorbed, so you know Djokovic is a little bit less scary.
Oh yeah, we're gonna start to that category, so all the steel types are gone, so now everyone wants to do a water absorber. Not for Dai though, he's gonna pick up Mammothswine, and this team has a lot of offensive tools right now. A lot of breaking, not a lot on the defensive side yet, outside of Celebi, but of course there are still lots of rounds left, and this team already, with the speed it has, with the bulk, not with the bulk, with the breaking power, can definitely do a lot of work, and I'm not looking forward, because I think I'm facing his team. I'm not entirely sure, but this is gonna be hard to wall what we have going on here. But then we have Versus finally picking up an offensive mon, even though I guess this thing can be bulky with Roost, but we have Vikavolt.
Yeah, the reason for Vikavolt is here pretty much to have an offensive mon, plus having a little bit the electric type for my electric type weakness there, and of course sticky webs, because as you can already tell, my core is not that offensive, it's not that fast, and I think these webs are really important for the team in general. Plus, I wanted to get some more momentum. I mean, Milotic has momentum with Flip Turn, we have Clefable with Teleport, but having some momentum which deals a little bit more damage, I felt could be helpful, and so Vikavolt, I wanted to have it early because you have not that many webs setters.
Yeah, especially also that can do something besides setting webs.
Yeah,
like, of course,
sure.
if you're Arya, those stuff like
Yeah,
that, but it really
Vikavolt is
sets
incredible.
webs and dies, so I'm not sure if you want that. And then we have Moed with the big brain play. They had Dracofish and they scooped up Seismitoad themselves, so this is not something that's going to take on the Seismitoad. They're like, you know what, let's draft one of the water absorbers ourselves, so that's at least one thing
Yeah,
we don't have to face.
I like this guy. I like this guy a lot.
Oh, that's gonna be so
He
annoying.
gets it.
Yep. And it's the guy with Ferrothorn, so that's really hard to break. It's gonna be really hard to break through. It's gonna be fun to face.
Thanks, Odo. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Then we have Seabat here with Drodagon, which is a really early Drodagon, but every time I had Drodagon, it's been really reliable. It really has been. Usually in the defensive way, how bulky it is with like Rough Skin, Rocky Helmet, but even as just a Stealth Rock Setter with Dragon Tail or Sucker Punch Glare, you know, it gets a lot of things, and it's not your typical dragon, to, like what we said with Cobalion not being your typical steel. But if you get around that, you should be in a pretty good spot. And then going to Silver Beanie here is going to pick up Mimikyu. So they're going to add more offense to their Toxic packs, and Toxic packs kind of sitting there as a defensive backbone, but at least they give themselves another win con, because Mimikyu definitely is a win con in a lot of games with Disguise, though. Then on the next one we have Velmice going to the Douglas here, who obviously is going to be a rapid spinner for the team. They had the Defog with Scissor, but that's not really what you want to run every week. So I can definitely see that thing being used here, and at least no more momentum for this team, because unless I'm mistaken, Velmice does not get Baton Pass, so or teleport.
I hope not.
So they broke with
As far as
that.
I'm
But
aware, no.
even
I'm
that,
kind of disappointed on it is that, Delmise has, that new steel move that's 130 base power and breaks terrain. I was kind of hoping he was going to go for that, but, getting it Delmise before terrain, I don't know.
But then we're going to go to your team. You're going to get Hatter in here, which is a very cool trick room set
Somebody
together with your
stole my
Melmetal.
Mimikyu.
So far from Mimikyu.
The best trick room setter in the game. Well, Hatterene is the second best of it, and, well, with Melmetal, you know exactly what I'm trying to do here.
I mean, you wanted that trick room, eh? You want to click buttons.
Oh, yes. Oh,
And
yes.
the very good thing about Hatterene is that it's not just a trick room setter, but it can abuse it itself as well. That's also pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Hatterene, and while it's slow, it's like I said, it can abuse itself. Its slowness do allow it to be a very phenomenal wall breaker and sweeper in the trick room environment. So I'm done with this. I'm actually wanted this Pokemon. But Irish Emerald kind of slapped me around here because I got Scyther.
Then moving on to Vepsis here, who are going to pick up their second fast mon here, together with Zeraora. They now have Noivern, which has been pretty good in terms of performance in this generation so far. Frisk ability is really cool to have, and as long as you land your Hurricanes, you're definitely in for a very good, lower tier Dragon type.
I mean, there's nothing to it. It's super versatile. Can go potentially modest if you want to.
And then here it is. I guess I lied. I picked two more. After this, I picked one more EOL Trophy one, but it will be in the last round. You kind of probably already know what it is at that point, but Rotomo, yes, makes a return for the EOL Trophy. From here on, we're going to take a different route all the way to round 11, okay? So, stop worrying about that. We're going to have a very different team here and with a very different mindset, but Rotomo, the reason it works so well here is that both Direct and Incinerate are weak to ground, which Rotomo easily deals with, and gives me another momentum user together with Cinderace, which, the core already worked in EOL Trophy, and now I have Terrakion as well to abuse the momentum that we get. So it's really cool there, and I got myself a Defogger along with Core Change, so it's also pretty cool. Then moving on to Ultra Player, speaking of Defog users, they pick up Galarian Weezing, which, to be fair, I've really been enjoying the times I've been using Galarian Weezing. Also because it does have the option to be a grounded poison type or not. Neutralizing Gas can be really fun to use. And in general, Strange Team is pretty cool move, Toxic Spike Seta, together with Rillaboom and with things like Jirachi, Arcanine, should be pretty fun to use for them.
Yeah, what's really cool about the Weezing here is that you have three really good abilities in the Draft League. You can decide each week which you can bring. And that's really a thing I think a lot of people forget about Draft League in comparison to Overused or something like that, to a normal format, that you can really make huge challenges for your opponent just switching out and switching some little things. Like that your Jirachi can't get paralyzed, or your Rillaboom can't get paralyzed here, or whatever with the terrain up.
And he gives himself two terrains by this. They have the Rillaboom and the Weezing. So
Yeah, that's huge.
I think it's waiting for Hawlucha to be picked up to his team still, but we're going to see what they're going to do or not. Lucky will pick up Venusaur, so we are very likely to see some sort of Sunsetter in both, either Ninetales or Torkoal are still around. So we're going to see if they're going to pick up one of those. Because I think to make Venusaur worth the price you pay for it, you kind of have to. But when you have that Sun, a lot of people tend to struggle with that currently. Especially with this thing getting Weather Ball, getting Earth Power, Earthquake, which one of this get? I guess ground coverage.
Earth Power.
Earth Power.
Yeah.
It has, I think it was both actually.
Yeah, I guess both.
Oh, both. Okay. Never mind then.
So it's an absolute apex grass sweeper right now.
It actually can, and also if they pick up some Sunsetter, that's also giving them more speed, because so far the team was like kind of slow with, I think, Crocodile being the fastest one on the team off, besides this thing on the sun, so...
But he has conk, it's the problem.
I said speed, that's not really why you go to conk. Speaking of speed though, I think this is also going to be pretty obnoxious to play if you have to face Dragapult, Barraskewda, Darmanitan, who is going to just fire off moves at you, and then they have Tangrowth to switch on your offense. So New Jersey Brawlers are setting up for a really annoying call with triple I guess double U-turn, flip turn, so like 3 momentum options, and the Tangrowth being there. It's going to be really annoying to try and deal with, and at that point we're back at the wheel with Dr. Slacking, who's going to start off with Porygon Z, and I'm not sure what it is. Every time I face Porygon Z, I underestimated it for some reason. Like, it always...
Everybody does that till they hit with a Hyper Beam, like, that's why I use it.
Yeah, like, when you see it on paper, you're like, nah, that's fine. Then you start doing calcs, and you're like, wait, this is not fine. Definitely is not in there.
When a Solvent doesn't solve your issue, then you're in trouble.
And then we're gonna pick up a mon I absolutely started loving in this generation, even though Gilwing's nerf and stuff like that. But Talonflame with heavy duty boots is amazing. It can be in so many different roles right now, as either a steel check or like just an offensive U-turn or pivot on mon, gets default, gets roost, and in general the team is really hard hitting and really fast right now. Like, I think they might try to start picking up some bulk at this point, but in general, offensively speaking, this team should be pretty hard to deal with at this point. And there it is. Roof picks up Mandibus. We gave all the time in the world. And now I have to deal with Dragapult having its main counter on its team, and we have to deal with the defensive core of Tangrowth Mandibus.
Everything on this team is either really frail or really, really offensive.
It is. It's like
there's no in between.
We need no bulky offense or anything like that. Just fast and hitting hard, or being really obnoxiously bulky. One of the two, you pick. Then moving on to Lucky Wolf, who... maybe we'll see the Gen 1 starter core, because they're going to pick up Blastoise. So they don't have Venusaur and Blastoise. We need to see Charizard here, and then we have the core complete. So no Sunsetter yet, but obviously that will... At least one of the Sunsetters should make it back to them without any questions, so that's probably what they're going for. And Blastoise got Shell Smash in this generation. It got Life Dew as well, some sort of recovery, but it's only 33%. But I think the main thing people have been looking at here is indeed the Shell Smash Blastoise.
I mean, Life Dew is really good for Venusaur. I am for Dragofish at least, so free Dragofish counter right there.
And then there it is, Hawlucha going to Ultra Player. So, like we already said, Hawlucha was coming here, and it definitely did find a spot on the team. They have 340 points left, so they definitely do need to budget a little bit going to the later rounds, but a lot of offensive tools here to work with. Like, you need to prevent Rillaboom from outright breaking your team, you need to prevent not losing to Hawlucha on the terrain, you need to prevent not being flinched down by Jirachi. So, there are a lot of things to worry about here for this team already, with only 5 picks in. They're going
I'm feeling Mamoswine though.
I'm feeling, yeah, I mean, Mamoswine is different. Mamoswine's different. Then we're gonna go to my team, round 5, I'm gonna pick up Steelix here. So, like I said, a different mindset I had here to compare with Ian Trophy is that I was gonna try to basically do the opposite of what First is doing, and spend a lot of points on my offense, like high tier offense, and low tier bulk. That's what we're gonna try to make work. So actually, like I said, exactly opposite of what Versus is doing here. So we're gonna pick up Steelix here, which was one of the only steel types left at this point. Never used it, but every time I face it, I hate facing it. So hopefully it will do work for me now.
It's real good.
And like I said, if you want to go for a lower tier bulk, definitely going for the Steelix right now, because it's one of the things that fit the category and will probably not last that much longer here after this. So I'm gonna pick it up right now. Then going to Vets, I'm gonna pick up Roserade, which I've used for the first time and definitely did not disappoint me. Roserade is a phenomenal grass type. Should have picked it up sooner in Gen 7 already, but it still did its work for me in Generation 8. Doesn't touch steel types, still has Sleep Powder to at least get something out of turn, or Toxic Spikes or something like that, but the very first time good grass type here for the format.
Even without Hidden Power, it's really versatile.
It is, even without that. Then going back to Skyrander, who... it's your fastest mon yet. You're going to pick up the Hexorus, which I had last season, and I can tell you
Fastest
this.
mon yet. Have
this
you
thing
seen
comes in.
Scyther?
Oh, Cider's there too. I tend to not look at 40 points months.
But yeah, I'm gonna quote ours on this. There is no way nobody's picking up Neuvern before Harini. So unfortunately he's not in the chat, but I wanna debate with him that he was wrong.
You forgot
And
Fabs
Gepsis
was in this
got that
draft.
Neuvern.
You forgot Fabs was in this draft and he likes that Neuvern. So you forgot.
But yeah,
You're-
we got Haxorus. It's fine. It's good. It's really good actually. But
It
I
is.
had my mind on different Pokemon.
I mean, this thing for me last season, it just came in, choice band, click a move, get a kill. Like, it actually has the highest roll attack set in the game right now, with all the mons being cut. So, there's that for you.
Yeah, I like this mod with just choice band and just rip teams apart if we can.
And then next up, another dragon, we have Gudra here, which, has anyone any thoughts on the Gudra here going to the Ducklets?
I like Gudra. It's a good especially defensive mon, and you can definitely just like you're free to run. You can run max HP and max special attack and specs and just smack stuff around, punch holes.
Yeah, great coverage, great abilities too on this thing actually. With both Gooey can be useful, but also the one that, what's it, Zap Zipper or something it's called again?
Yeah.
The one that deals with grass moves, which, you know,
Yeah, we
it's
actually
not
had
like
a
they
debate
really,
on
they're
Twitter
not
that
really weak to grass. I
Gudra
guess
is
they
probably the
actually
best
like it.
Rillaboom like
Yeah,
checker.
best Rillaboom switch in, so they don't really care about it all too much. It'll be great there.
Yeah, don't swore stance.
Then we're gonna see some more water absorbers being gone. So Crystal Palisades pick up Toxapex and Gastrodon, but I don't think this is as bad as it looks to defensive water types. Sometimes people really criticize teams for two defensive water types, not for like one offensive, one defense. But the thing here is that Toxapex and Gastrodon don't share any weaknesses, so you don't prep, like, you cannot bring one mon and prep for both, even though they share the same typing. So definitely great there, and maybe indeed the Dracofish kind of swayed them into picking this, but in general it's something they can really get a lot of use out, and it's not like this team is typically weak to grass if you look at the other picks here, so definitely good pickup here. They're going for Seabat, who's gonna get him more of his defensive things. When he got like extra deal Toxicity and like Grimmsnarl sitting in between of support and offense. Druddigon defensively good. Gofagrigus now coming on the team for 80 points. So they're really trying to, at least with Druddigon Gofagrigus, it's really hard to gonna break his team from the physical side. It really is going to be.
I mean, Confagrigus is a mon you never want to battle against because it's so annoying with all the stuff it's doing. It's getting rid of your ability. And I really see it working in his team. The only thing I don't see that hard at the moment is a lot of recovery, but I mean, he has a lot of picks left. So,
And rest talk, that's a thing. It's a
rest
thing.
talk is always a thing, I guess.
And face splits too, but it's not as reliable.
Don't
then
do that.
Then going to Moat, who's gonna pick up Drapion here, and they still needed the grounded poison type, they still needed the dark type, so I can definitely see why this thing comes in clutch. Also, getting a toxic spikes with a Dracofish or with a Comfy is really annoying, because a lot of fire types or steel types or poison types can take on Comfy, but you kind of negate the fire types when toxic spikes are, because they're gonna be whittled down eventually, and it also prevents, you know, toxic spike being set on in, because he can just switch into Drapion and they're gone, just like that. So it'll be really cool. And then going to Versus again, who is going to pick up a mod that actually can hit hard together with the Vicodin. We have the Searfash, so physical offense and special offense being on the team.
Yeah, I thought Surfetch would fit here really well because I think it's like Hexerus. It's so hard hitting. It has 135 attack, and with especially webs up, Surfetch is a monster. It's like you said, like any one of you said before, you throw a band on Surfetch and you get KOs every single turn. And what I really hope, what I can make work is Clefable has a really slow option to pivot out, Milotic as well, and so I can bring in Surfetch in a lot of different positions. So Surfetch should pretty much come in and destroy everything. That's the work of it, and I think for 80 points it's really okay.
For 80 points, it's definitely a really good pickup. Then, gonna move on to Dia, who's gonna pick up Rabombi, one of the fairy types left right here. Also gets Sticky Web, so another Sticky Web user can do something else. And I think the speed they have, like the, 124, something around that. It's going to be really useful here for the team as well, with only having Keldeo, otherwise it's high speed mod. And Ageless with webs is going to be pretty nasty to deal with, and you also have to watch out for this thing setting up itself to try and win. Just as comfy though, this thing kind of suffers from losing hidden power fire and not getting mystical fire, but it's still something that can work really well in the end game. So you have that going on here. Then back to JV, who's going to pick up one of my favorite mons in Generation 8 so far, Gengar. This thing is so spammable, man. It's such a great ball right now.
It's fantastic. Its move pool is great. It gives me because my speed tier was looking very, very low, but because of webs, Gengar can definitely shine. If not more so, because its speed is great. It's a hard hitter. It's just like the definition of a glass cannon.
Yeah, and indeed it hits phenomenally hard. People really have a hard time switching into this thing. Then moving on to Olivia, who I don't think is in call anymore with us, but they're going to pick up Crawdaunt, who is a Pokemon has been struggling a lot to perform. But they obviously see something in it, picking it up right here in round 5. And only for 80 points, like I said, it not performing really made it fell down the price list over time. So maybe this is one of those opportunities where they're going to be able to pick it up and show why it was usually
I mean, I have a
highly rated.
vendetta versus this Pokemon. I mean, in UBL D-League season, this Crawdaunt, got a knockoff crit on my Tangrowth and wanted killed it. So it's no joke. Like, my defined switching was obliterated with stuff like this. You get this guy right, it just messes you up.
Alright, we're gonna see what they will do with the going to Frost outside the wheel again, starting off with Vaporeon. So a lot of defensive picks here. They have like Bronzong Vaporeon right now. Silvally can be like defensive pivot or whatever it wants. Ninetales setting up the screens, come over the abuse of that. So really picking up a lot of mons, and in general Frosted drafts Vaporeon a lot and is really comfortable using it. So I'm not really surprised to see it going here. And again, Water Absorber, they have to go right now because Dracofish drafted. And they're actually going to pair it up with Jolteon. So 2 evolutions going to the same team. Now, Jolteon got a lot of smack in this generation for losing hidden power, being completely walled by ground types right now, but it still has its 130 base speed, so it still has that speed stat. But is anyone in here still like convinced in Jolteon?
I thought about drafting it before, but since I have Vikavolt, it was useless. But this 130 speed, it's not that bad as it looks like.
No,
I really think there is a point,
that.
and you can also make it a little bit. It's special defense stat. It's not the worst in the world. I have seen Wish Passers with
Jolteon. Just said
Wish...
something that was of relevance.
I mean, it does get Baton Pass, so it can at least get itself out of situation with grounds, but it's not that ideal. Then going back to Olivia, who's going to pick up Alchemy. Again, the fairy types are rare, they're going, and Alchemy is a pretty interesting one here. We've all seen the setup Alchemy with like training kits and stuff like that work, but if you look, like, I think this thing mainly shines currently as like a Spadef wall. It's going to be really good. It's a neural therapy user, so that's going to be useful for them as well. And in general, they need the fairy type, and they have it on the team now. Then going back to JV, he's going to pick up Flygon here, which 100 base speed together with Gengar, building up some more speed here. U-Turner, Defogger, in general, pretty decent mon for the format.
Because I didn't have a dragon type, and I didn't have a ground type either, so I just knocked out 2 birds with 1 stone. And Flygon pretty good because you can even run it special, really, because it has a decent special move pool as well, so definitely has some versatility.
Yeah, I've seen that people have brought up multiple times versus me. Like, it's actually it can do stuff. Then going to Diet, who is going to pick up a defensive mon for once with Hitmontop. First one is going to be defensive. Intimidate, of course, Rapid Spin to get rid of hazards from that side. And I guess something that is actually not really good switch to Aegislash because it doesn't get knockoff, right? This thing doesn't. No, it doesn't. So at least you couldn't use for that, but this is still something for a defensive backbone where they can start to build with this, and like I said, hazard control is pretty important too. And looking at what they spent, they had to dig into the lower tiers as well. So it's going to be good here. Then we have Versus again picking up the new toy, which people have yet to see in the format a lot. But we have Zarude here.
Yeah, Zarude, I really picked it because it's the same with Melmetal. I don't know how often you get a chance to use it. I mean, in this content I do, I normally not use the root, so I thought that could work well, and I thought I need a faster mon. Of course, I'm really slow at the moment, so 1 of 5 is a nice speed tier. We have a really good U-turn there, then a nice offensive move pool, and this covers pretty much also the weakness in electric that I had before, and the root has really nice defensive stats when you look at that. I mean, not a lot of people know about the root yet, and I hope that is a little bit the key to use it in a cool way.
I mean, the two downside of it is obviously it doesn't get knockoff, and its ability is useless in most situations, but outside of that, of course it's 4 times weak to Bug, but looking at your team with like Lefable and Skarmory, you shouldn't really care for Bug all too much, I would hope so. So that's something you got going on there.
Jungle healing is, awesome refresh move, so it's cool.
And then we have Moat here, and Moat said like, you know what, I'm lacking speed, and I agree, and they picked up Alakazam. So that thing is sitting there right now, so speed control. Really good late game.
Unfortunately, gotta drop. My daughter woke up. So I'll maybe come back later. Hold on.
Alright. So we have the Alakazam has a really good late game cleaner with either Focus Dash or Life Orb with Magic Guard. So it's really spammable mon in the late game. Really hard hitting, which if Dracofish didn't already finish off your team, there's something that can clean up in the end. Then moving on to Seabat again, who is gonna keep continuing picking like lower tier bulk, which is what I'm going to do as well. And they're gonna pick up Xatu here, which of course Magic Bounce, Defog, U-turn, Teleport, Air Slash, Thunder Wave, Calm Mindset, Rooster Recovery, overall like a really really overall solid mon. So definitely interested what he's going to try and do with that. Then we're going to go to Bolton, who's picked up by Silver Bean here, who, to be fair, outside of Cobalion lacked speed, so Bolton is here. I really did enjoy Bolton myself. Even though it doesn't get grass moves, there's only like a few ground types that can really deal with it, like Rhyperior and Rhydon. Rhyperior, Rhydon, those can deal with it, but other than that, most still take a lot of damage from strong jaw boosted hits, so it's going to be really annoying for opponents to deal with. And then next up we have Orbeetle. I've a little experience with Orbeetle. I'm not sure if anyone in Skull has done more with Orbeetle.
I like Orbeetle. It kind of is like can be a sweeper, like an unexpected sweeper sometimes because like the sword power sets, or it's a great web setter because it has a great speed tier as well. Could be a very good like defensive mon or suicide lead. And
also, of course, it does get sticky webs, and the steam is kind of slow, so that's probably one thing they were looking at as well. And that's Skyrender, who is taking care of his daughter who doesn't want to go to bed. We have Salazzle, which gives him elite speed, which he didn't have yet. Toxic Spike setter, Toxic Spikes abuse, remove, and setter. And in general, Corrosion can toxic anything. Nasty Plus set of like Flamethrower and Sludge Wave is really hard to wall with, barring like really bulky ground types. But other than that, this thing is a really big threat for a lot of teams here. And then going back to Vebsis, who is... I'm happy you did this. I'm really happy you picked up that Caparaja to show someone. We all know that Caparaja is in fact a good Pokemon and not a bad Steel type. Same with Cobalion, you have to get around this thing not being a typical Steel type. If you get around that, you start using this thing offensively. I noticed it multiple times. Usually my teams never have switchings to a well-played Caparaja. So we're gonna see if our reigning champion is able to abuse that as well and get some kills on the board here with the big elephant here. So hopefully we can make it work. Then going to myself again, I was, like I said, lower tier bulk, high tier offense. We're gonna pick up Mantine here for 80 points, and it's a water absorb mon, which hey, I have for myself now, so Dracofish less of an issue. But I really like the synergy here with Steelix and Mantine pretty much negating each other's weaknesses. And together with Rotomo, it's one of the things that can take the ground moves really well, so we have those here. And hopefully again, this thing can really come in through with our low tier bulk, trying to make that work. And I'm very excited to... I've never used Mantine, never used Steelix, but on paper the combination looks really great together. They go to
I can tell you, I used Mantine a lot of times, especially defensively. As long as you control electric types, it's so hard to break through
I have
that
Steelix,
with special
so
moves. That's really, really good. Ruse, Toxic is so annoying on that. So for only 80 points, it's really not that much that you spent on that.
No, it's a little bit passive, but like I said, to deal with the electro types, I have the Steelix, so
Yeah.
that's one thing. And Steelix, of course, also deals with rock moves, so hey, that's great for me there. But moving on, we have Umbreon here, very annoying to deal with. I'm not liking the combination of having to face Jirachi Umbreon. I really don't. And the Wish Passer for into the Rillaboom, for into the Weezing, so that one will probably fit really well here on this team. Then going to Lucky Wolf again, who this time aren't going to pick up the Sunsetter. They're going to go for Torkoal. 80-point Torkoal coming in, which of course does get a Rapid Spin as well, Stealth Rocks. And most importantly, will set the sun for Venusaur. But one thing I'm upset about is that this... I think everyone agrees here this should have been Charizard, right? You had the opportunity.
Totally.
Round 4 Venusaur, round 5 Blastoise, round 6 Charizard, but no, it's Torkoal. Oh well. Unfortunately.
I think you can play Sunny Day Charizard instead. That works as well.
That would have been the play. That would have been the play. They're going to Root though, picking up one of the only fairy types left in, or one of the higher tier fairy types, or mid-tier fairy, it's not high, mid-tier fairy type left. A Gardevoir here. So they really have the option here to run it like both defensive, offensively. I think it does get both Baton Pass and Teleport for momentum options. Trace, really cool ability to use Synchronize too, so lots of ways to try and fit this thing in on the team. Then back at the number 1 pick, who's going to pick twice now right now, of course, at the wheel, starting off with Magneton. So they picked themselves a Steel Trapper, which is probably really great that they did that, because Steel types, of course, tend to switch in on the Primarina that they have, switching on Porygon Z that they have. Try to just trap them, get them out of the game. They already had Talonflame to nuke them, they had Single Strike, Urshifu to nuke them, and now they have Magneton to trap them. So they're really punching down on those Steel types, trying to wall Primarina and Porygon Z. And they're going to pair that actually up with Colossal, which I think is the first 20-point moment we actually see going here. It should be fair. I don't think Colossal's any good. I drafted myself, I tried using it, but I failed. Anyone else here has any good experience here with Colossal?
Not in singles. I have really no idea how to set that up. I saw that I play so much VGC at the moment, I thought, oh, Colossal 20 points, that's great. And then I started to think about, okay, what's Colossal do in singles, actually? But let's wait. I mean, it's only 20 points, so maybe you will never prepare for it, and then it surprises you. We never know.
Yeah. Again, it's really not a great model. But hey, maybe someone will utilize it. Then Root again picking up a 121 in Heliolisk here, which Heliolisk got. It doesn't necessarily got above this gen, but because most other electric types got nerfed, losing Hidden Power Grass, but this thing already having Grass Knot, it really and Surf too, so it really didn't. It really didn't bother it all too much that those moves were gone, and it can still do its thing, and in that sense make it more reliable, more usable in here. And again, look at the momentum they're building up. U-turn, Dragapult, they have Barraskewda with Flip Turn, they have Darmanitan with U-turn, Mandibus with U-turn, Guardfire with Baton Pass and Teleport, and now Heliolisk also both with Volt Switch and U-turn. So it's really that tank growth there that doesn't get momentum. All other things do. It's gonna be really annoying here to face. Then going back to Lucky Wolf, we're gonna pick up Reuniclus, who hasn't seen too much use in this generation, but I still think is a very great Pokemon. With the power creep that's currently going on and we not having too many breakers, this thing can easily set up and be a really big threat, like Trick Room, Life Orb, Magic Guard, gets Regenerator too. Very annoying to deal with, and again, I think, of course, it's weak to Dark and Ghost, but they have Crocodile to deal with that, so I don't think that should be too much of an issue here for this thing.
But I like really Reuniclus here at that point, because you have Torkoal and Conkeldurr for the Trick Room option. You can decide, you can go Reuniclus Torkoal for the Trick Room, you can go Torkoal Venusaur for the speed. You can also do it in one game, both of that. If you use Venusaur very early and go for the late game Trick Room, I think Reuniclus is a great choice there. Even though you spent a lot of points on that, but it's one of the best Trick Room setters because it's so bulky.
And maybe we're in for Trick Room I need Trick Room Torkoal. And let's see, and maybe not. Maybe Torkoal is gonna run Shell Smash and like outspeed everything through that. But it only has 20 base speed, so I'm not really sure. But we'll see what happens. Then going on to Ultra Play, who's gonna draft Rhydon because they didn't have a ground type yet, and of course Rhydon for 40 points is a really reliable one. Not too much to say about it. Can set up rocks, can take the hits. As long as it's not like Grass Knot or something like that from Electro types, which not all Electro get it. Doesn't have to fear Hidden Power Grass anymore, so very solid. And Umbreon's Wishes again will come in clutch for making these type of Pokemon perform. Then going to my own draft again, spending a little bit more points here, we're going to pick up Dragalge, who it's the first time for me using this thing, and it's kind of what pushed me over the edge was this thing now getting a flip turn. So it can like pivot out of steel types. And in general, I needed Toxic Spikes and I needed Toxic Spikes Remover. Even though this gives me another ground weakness, I still needed the ground of poison type to get rid of that. And in general, this thing can be a pretty underrated breaker, because every time I face this, I end up losing a one or two to this thing. Just because of how
People
hard
forget
it
about
hits.
adaptability.
Yeah, adaptability makes this thing hit like a truck. And again, lost in a power fire, so be it. Flip turn makes up for that, in my opinion. Still being able to pivot out of those. Then going to Webster's here is going to pick up Scrafty. They did not have a dark type yet. No, they didn't. And they valued it a lot, so it's kind of late of a dark type here. But Scrafty is a very fun one to use. I had it last season. I had lots of fun with it. Both defensively and offensively, this thing can do a lot of things. Great abilities like Intimidate, Moxie, and what's the other one that heals status? Shed Skin. So 3 great abilities, very versatile. Super Fang 2 for defensive sets, pretty clutch, knockoff, stuff like that. So Dragon Dance, Bulk Up, everything you really want for your Dark and Fighting type. Then go to Skyrender here, who is going to pick up Rhyperior. So this is like the first, I guess with Rotom Wash, like the second thing that can be defensive oriented, and also a really good goal with Rotom Wash here. Rotom Wash Rhyperior might be really good to deal with because they, of course, Rotom Wash does take care of the ground weaknesses that the Rhyperior does have. Of course, they are both weak to grass, but if you look at, they have a Celestial, they have a Scyther, they have a Melmetal, they don't really care for grass all too much, I think. And they need their defense too. I know he's an offensive player, but everyone needs some walls. So Rhyperior really fits in well, and around 7 is a pretty good pickup here. Then going to the Douglas, who didn't have a lot of speed, and Dugtrio does get speed, but I think again the thing they're trying to do here is trying to make this thing get rid of the few things that will take hits from like Rhyperior and Scizor like that. Trap those mons that can take them on, get them out, and then try to abuse those hard hitters and those momentum options, even Goodra with offensive options that he does have, to try and make that work. So that's what they're going for here. Then Silverbean, you're gonna pick a Braviary, which I'm not sure why. Every time I prep for Braviary, it's also one of those things where at first you don't really look at it because you're like, okay, it's Braviary, let's just have a physical wall. And then you start doing cogs, and the thing is actually more annoying than it seems like. Defying into, so you cannot intimidate it, so unfortunately for the one with the rest of Arcanine, you cannot use it as a switch in. Bulk up sets, Scarf sets with U-turn, gets Brave Bird, I think now too, close combat, stuff like that. Kind of lost out on normal stab with return being removed, but hey, it's still a very great one too. For like 80 points, it's definitely a very solid mon to add here to the squad. And then to Seabed, here it is, the Sand Setter, Gigalith. Round 7, Gigalith is going to be picked up here and gives Exodrill that sand that it desperately needs in order to have that high speed set and try to abuse that. But on its own, Gigalith is a very versatile and useful mon in the format with good bulk on both sides. As soon as the sand stream goes up, of course, the Spadef gets boosted as well. And in general, I always find this thing harder to take down than it should be. I'm not sure why. It always does. Like, you think, oh, it's a rock type, there's so many weaknesses, I'll be fine. But every time you find yourself struggling to take it down efficiently and not getting something chipped by poison or by hits whatsoever, or sand. So that's a really annoying thing to deal with. That Mowat, who in the WBE has a lot of little cup mons, and they're going to pick up the first one here in Vullaby, which I like Vullaby for 20 points, but only for 20 points. Again, it's not the best dark type, but for 20 points that you pay with the Eviolite, it's really bulky, mini Mandibus, and again, he seems to be really comfortable with Little Cup / NFE guys, so it's probably one of the better coaches to pick up a mon like this. Then 2 verses where Claydol is gonna come out, which of course does get a new toy now in Scorching Sand.
Yeah, that's totally interesting. The thought process for the Claydol, because I needed a spinner. That was the main reason, and then I talked a lot about my electric type weakness, and I thought that would fit here as well. And what I think not a lot about, a lot of people know, the teleport play here is really, really great for the Claydol. I mean, you don't have so much offensive power with it, but I think for 40 points to fill all the gaps that I had on the team, it felt the best at this point when I have the electric type immunity plus the rapid spinner plus stealth rocks. That works really well here. So not the best mon at all, but fits in the team.
And you gotta have to dip into those 40-point mons anyways at one point, so
Yeah.
might as well make them count and fit in your team. Then again, the last few scraps of fairy types that we have, Aromatisse is going to Diet and the new Britain Rockruff, which I know a lot of people like Aromatisse, but when I had it, I really struggled to make it use. Because it always seems like to take just a little bit too much damage to the point where, like, Wish Protect barely does or doesn't work. That made me really uncomfortable using this thing. But it does get Trick Room, it does get Nasty Plot, it has options, and there are people that are really comfortable, even though I feel like sometimes it just takes a little bit too much from certain hits that are able to work around that. So maybe it's something this team can do, and again, Wish support for this mon is definitely great. So that's something that they can definitely try to abuse on the team. Then going back to JV, who's going to pick up Farizion here for a little bit more speed as well. Like, you've been picking up 3 really fast mons back to back.
I just wanted to, because a good, strong offensive grass type is kind of rare, because, things like Zarude and Venusaur are already gone. Brizion also can be like a especially defensive tank, and yeah, it outspeeds a lot. It could be special or physical, which is also cool as well.
Yeah, in general, I think a lot of people underestimate what Farizion can do until they lose to it one time. Like, it can be like set up on both sides, has great moves, so even Calm Mind can be very fun to use with that thing too. But then going to the New Orleans Saint Snub, picking up Mudsdale, which is a ground type I've really started to like. Stamina's a really cool ability, especially now it does get Body Press too. Stealth Rocker for the team, so it takes pressure off Corviknight. And in general, they didn't have a ground type, now they do, and they have a pretty decent one, so that's good for them. Then moving on to Frosted at the other side of the wheel, starting off with the Sidgewai. So they now have their defog use, so they have their ghost type, so that's really great for them. And in general, this thing, of course, has Rooster's Recovery, U-Turn for Momentum, Ghost Step, Sword Stance, stuff like that. For 100 points, for what I've used it for, it's a really solid one for 100 points, what you pay for it. And I got paired up with Skuntank, and that gives, I think they drafted Skuntank multiple times, also in the UBL. Grounded Poison type, which it did not have. It lost Pursuit, which is big for this thing, but it still removes Doctor Spike, it still has Defog, it still has Sucker Punch, it has Flamethrower, it steel types. It does have the options. And then something that I secretly always look at, kind of my guilty pleasure mon, I guess. We have Chinchino going to the New Orleans Saint Snow, and Chinchino in general, with the speed tier it has this generation, and people really underestimate how hard this thing hits. Like, I think people always complain about the King's Rock set. I literally, the times I drafted this, I only run King's Rock like once or twice. Usually I just run Choice Band with Chill Slam, and I just go through teams in general. It does get U-Turn as well for momentum, it does get knockoff, and in general really hard to deal with defensively. And then something else hard to deal with defensively too is gonna be the Weavile here for JV, which again, more speed, more offense, and still around in round 8 for some reason.
Yeah, I was really surprised I was able to snag it, but Ice and Dark is great offensive typings, especially with the stab knockoff and a lack of things wanting to take triple axle or icicle crashes because they hurt.
Yeah, or knockoffs in general.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it was a pricey one for you. You have 80 points left for your last 3 picks, but Weavile definitely will put in that work this season. Speaking of dark types here, Zoroark going to Diet here, who gives them a little bit more speed too. Of course, the ability to disguise himself as something. or the illusion, I guess. I don't think I have to call it disguise anymore. Now we've Mimic You. It's always what I try to say, but in general, a really fun mon to use, and something that can really screw you up if you don't know what mon its illusion is. So it's really cool there. Then versus who picks up Lycanroc Dusk, which is a mon that has been seeing a lot of use currently in this metagame with the moves it got in its generation, the speed it has, which, to be fair, you kind of lack speed, so that's why the Lycanroc Dusk is probably there.
Yeah, that's the biggest reason for it. I had a lot of problems with the speed with the team. It's really bulky. I'm really happy with the defensive core, but I needed speed and a little bit more power because I can't only rely on Surfetched and the root all the time, especially because the root has to take some more defensive options in my team, so I needed one hard-hitting mon. You can't just throw off. Having also some priority moves that I was lacking hardly here, Asada Rock plus Sucker Punch, and this combination here I think fits the best. I can play it with the Choice Band, I can play it with a Life Orb, and really get this speed advantage here somehow in without relying too much on webs all the time.
Mm-hmm. And Asada Rock priority is also something really fun about this thing, of course, to use. Then going to Moet here, he's going to pick up regular Rotom, and a regular Rotom has always been one of those mons which I found really annoying to prep for. Not necessarily that's a great mon, but just annoying to prep for. And when I used it in the WBE like last season, it definitely put in work for me, and also goes to show how spammable ghost types are. So really great that it picked it up also together with a Toxic Spike user like Drapion to set up Toxic Spikes and just go for like Choice Bandit or Spell Tech boosted hacks for stuff like that. Another defog user on the team, so really great, and actually pairs up really well with Volibee as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what they will do with that combination here. And then going for the lower tiers again, more Eviolite users here. We already saw the Volibee on the previous team, and now we're going to see Tangela here, who surprisingly enough can also take on Dracofish really easily, so that's also one of the things. It's really bulky, but the one thing that really makes it quote-unquote weaker is that this thing really doesn't hit hard. It's really passive, and that's one thing you have to watch out for. But other than that, with Eviolite, this thing is insanely bulky, and of course does still get Regenerator, which is going to be fun to face.
I think for 40 points, it's really, really good. I mean, you have not a lot of different options offensively, but you don't have to forget it's 100 special attack, I guess. That's not so little. So Giga Drain recovers in the right moments. Okay damage. Just losing hidden power is bad for Tangela, but 40 points, it's a really great pick for that.
Then going to Silver Beanie here, is going to pick up Espeon, which I also had in WB last season. I really enjoyed for what it's worth. Like what you pay for it, you can get a lot out of it. It hits really hard. That's the option to like trick choice sets, stuff like that. But Pass for momentum. I really don't like that this thing did not get Mystical Fire. It really would have been so much better with it, but you're able to play around it at least decently. At least I was able to, so that's a good thing there. And more Eviolite users here on the Douglas team picking up Clefairy, which I was actually looking at. I'm not gonna lie. I was definitely looking at this thing because all the fairy types are gone. Which, even though this thing, at least to be a little bit less passive, gets Seismic Toss, which breaks most subs. So at least you can try to utilize that. The only downside to Clefable, obviously, like I said, it's less hard, it relies on Eviolite. But probably the biggest thing is that this thing does not get underwear, like the Clefable versus does. And then even more non-evolved Pokemon here. You're just gonna pick up Sneasel there for Skyrander, which at least I don't think this thing is gonna run Eviolite that often. It's most likely gonna be like Choice Band or Heavy Boots, something like that. Really hits hard, it's just Weavile. It's the exact same thing as Weavile. It's just a little bit less hard. Which makes it miss out on Sudden KOs, and it's a little bit slower, but it's mini Weavile. It's really just the same thing as it. Then too, versus we have Runerigus, which I did enjoy using myself. Ground types with Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rocks are really rare, the combination of those three things. And again, it's a really cool wall to try and abuse here. Defensive Ghost is definitely different. It does share the Ghost weakness with Slowbro, so that's something, but they have the Scrafty that does take care of that, so there's, and of course takes care of Dark too, so it's gonna be quite annoying. Like, bulk core of Slowbro, Crafty for Uniclus to try and take down.
But looking at the team, you have to mention that there is a huge trick room option as well there now. Runerigus, Crafty, Cooperacha plus Slowbro is really annoying.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's gonna really be that. So since Clefairy was gone, we're gonna pick up the Guildmaster, man. We have Wigglytuff here. And a lot of people make jokes about Wigglytuff, but this thing with 140 HP with Wish is actually kind of bad. Really fast Wishes does have momentum option, teleport and stuff like that. Doesn't get Moonblast, that's a little bit unfortunate. And of course it's also unfortunate that your fairy does not resist fighting. But we do have an Acrossman that resists fighting, we do have Mansign that resists fighting, we have Dragalge that resists fighting, so I feel like we're fine. And also another good thing is we get a really bulky normal type. So people that want to fire off ghost moves at Minor Crossmar really have to consider this thing too. And I'm even going to pick up a ghost type myself, another offensive one. So I think one of the only ghost types left later on. And for that reason, it's also really good to have a reliable ghost type switch in for me. And again, I needed the fairy. This was the best one left, so I'm going to pick the Wigglytuff here. And then we have Raichu, which is a 40.1. I enjoy myself as well. Just like Heliolisk, already had Silver and Grassnot, so that's great there. And yeah, not too much to say about Raichu. It does what it does for 40.1. It's a really solid one for 40, but that's really it. And that's all you can say about it. Then Lucky Wolf here with Galvantula. So the Sticky Webs options are here. Faster Electric Type 2, Volt Switch, get Energy Ball 2, so again can hit Ground Type Switch. I really don't like it when we have to face an electric type, but that gets a good grass move too. It's really annoying to get something against that. And Sticky Webs too, which for this team is good because this team isn't insanely fast outside of Venusaur under webs. So, or Venusaur under Sun. So good thing that they have the webs option here too. Then Root, who's gonna continue on another U-turn user, because why not? Type Null. Which not sure how many times it will run U-turn, but really solid defensive mon together with Tangrowth, so they do get their defensive things in also with Mandibuzz, so not too many defensive mons, but the one that do have, they make it count. And again, only the Tangrowth does not have momentum. What other things do on this team? Which is going to be very annoying to deal with. Then, we're back at Dr. Slack, and here we're going to pick for round 8 and round 9, starting with a Piloswine, which also is one of my favorite ground types to use. Also an ice type that's resisting fire because of Thick Fat, which is really actually an ice type that resists fire type. There we go. With Thick Fat, stuff resists that. Really great to use for that. Of course with the ground typing too. Gets some Stealth Rocks, has priority like Ice Shard, stuff like that, and pretty straightforward mon to use. Maybe we'll even see some funny like offensive choice band, life or choice scarf sets, but most of the time just Eviolite, pretty easy stuff here. And they're gonna pair it up with Appleton. Has anyone in here used Appleton?
I used it once. I actually really used it once, and I was so surprised by it because you don't have so many options with it, but Leech Seed on that, and if you cover for all the Ice type mons on your opponent's team, not really every Dragon type move defeats it. And if you go recover, Leech Seed, Protect, that's really annoying. It's not the best mon in the world. Of course, it lacks a lot of different things, but for 60 points, I mean, you're really in that point here in the draft. You have to make the best what you can get. And for 60 points, especially in a draft league when you have a good matchup, it's hard. It's really hard to break.
And also, because of Thick Fat, this thing is actually a grass type that resists fire, because it's Dragon and Thick Fat. And Thick Fat also helps take the Ice type moves a little bit better, which... It's going to be interesting to see if he can make it work or not. Then we have Root here, who's going to pick up the baby version of my Cinderace in the Raboot. So we have the Raboot sitting here, and this one can use Libero. So that's one thing it can do. It can actually hit really hard with that, but it's also Raboot. Its attack set is lower, its speed set is lower. I don't think it gets Fireball and Core Change. I think those are just Cinderace only moves. But still, having an ability like Libero always makes you a threat. So that's something to keep in mind here. True.
But at least there is now something with momentum that's great for his team. He has no momentum at all, so one U-turn is great. For sure.
And then we have Lucky Wolf here with the Doublade, which is a really really easy mon here to slam on this team. Eviolite user as well, really bulky on the physical side, not so much on the special side. Shadow Sneak priority 2. And again, a mon that does appreciate sticky webs when they're up if you want to use this like Soul Sense offensively. But also the defensive one really has a lot of options here to work with. Then going to Ultra Player picks up his third 40-point mon in a row with Clawitzer. It does get flip turn, it does have momentum now, but so far I have yet to see someone use Clawitzer well. Even though it has a really high special attack set with the ability and the moves it gets, for some reason in draft leagues it tends to never shine. But maybe Ultra Player is able to change us and let us show why this thing is good in the format. Then for myself, I'm gonna pick up a Lowland Persian here, which again gives me a mon above 100 base speed. 115 is pretty good, forces some natures here, and this thing is another resist to Ghost and Dark, which again, I'm gonna pick up a Ghost type after this. That's why I'm stacking up on the resists of those. And Balling Shot is another way for me to try and get in the cross with the setup, try and get into Terrakion to set up, go to Cinderace or Rotom mode to spam moves, or Dragalti to spam moves. And I also think this gun can be really fitting on the team, even though a lot of people don't seem to like a Lowland Persian. I definitely think there can be use for it on this team, also with Fur Coat being really bulky. Also something to keep in mind. Then we have a mon I also really enjoy in Santa Scorch, going to Vepsis, as I know that he is also able to use that. I really like it myself too. Heavy Duty Boots is a big reason this thing is able to be good. And in general, this thing is so easy to switch in on fairy types and just pressurize them. And with that flame body, every physical attacker is a little bit hesitant, like, do I want to click that move or not? He still has that thing sitting there. It's really bulky, can coil to set up too, but as a bulky pivot, I think this thing is phenomenal. Have any of you guys used it yet or not?
I
have not used it.
I have used it a lot of times, especially using Assault Vest on it. You can take so many hits, you have such a cool move pool. You have the Fire Lash, you have the Leech Life, so you can recover a little bit, you can lower the defense of your opponent. You have Power Whip for water types. That's really cool. You just have to get care of the speed here because it's not the fastest mon. So you have to control that a little bit. If you don't control speed, Santa Scorch can be taken out pretty easily. But if you control it, it's way better than these 80 points. That's what I can say about it.
And of course, knockoff too. So that's something as well that it actually can do. Then go to Skyrander, who are picking up a little bit more defense here together with the Rapira, Rotom Wash. You're gonna pick up Gourgeist, who actually does resist grass, so that fits in there well. And in general, I really like Gourgeist as a low tier defensive mon. Like, for the price you pay, it offers a solid amount of defense. Not too insane, but just decent at that point. Foul Play, of course, really cool for it to not make it too passive. Will-O-Wisp 2 to get up Toxic for some status. Leech Seed, Seed Bomb, Shadow Sneak, a lot of options that it can try to abuse here. Then the Douglas here picking up Shiinotic after they picked up Clefairy, so dual fairies, we might see some transactions being made later, but I have only used Shiinotic on meme teams, I will not lie. Which is also why it's probably 20 points. It does get Strength Sap though. It's the first one to actually get Strength Sap at all, but I'm not sure how good this thing is, to be honest.
But I mean, if there's a format it can shine, then it's Draft League. When you are really bringing Shiinotic in a battle when all your answers of your opponents are gone, it could be hard to beat.
Gonna see, I have my doubts about Shiinotic, but we'll see. Then speaking of a good grass type, then we have Serena here going to Silver Beanie, which is a very reliable one, still around 100 points, so they have 80 points left for the final two picks. Rapid Spinner 2, which their team definitely needed, otherwise you have to run like Defog Hydreigon, which you don't want to. Prevents Priority 2 with his ability, and in general, Knockoff, Power Whip, U-Turn, High Jump Kick, really solid mon for 100 points that they're able to scope up at a very late point in the draft. Like usually this is gone around 9, so very great they were able to pick up that. Round 9 for Seabat is gonna be Slow King, so defensive wise, Drodagon, Cofarius, Xatu, Geolith, Tangela, Slow King, which is now what people have to break. with Grimstall's screen support, with getting your team hit by extra electricity, so might be hard to do with this. Of course, not as good as Slow Bro, but it's still a really good mod here. It's maybe a better Trick Room abuser, I guess. That's the thing it has over it.
I like how he got a double regenerator that late in the draft. Tangela Slowking are really good together. I use that a lot of time, plus the Grimmsnarl double screen. If you have that, you really do not break that core, even with the Tangela and Slowking.
Yeah, for sure. Then we're gonna go to Moet here. He's gonna pick up Durant, which is an interesting and risky mon. Like, it's hit or miss with Durant because of hustle. Which makes this thing, of course, hit really hard, but makes moves inaccurate. First impressions, Iron Hands, really hard to switch in. But again, every time you click that button, you have to think, am I going to land this move or not? Which makes it iffy, but if you connect your moves, we get up in Home Claws, this thing comes in. This thing comes in and takes lives.
For sure. And I know in one league he ran the entrainment strat, and it was funny to see.
Don't make me see that, please. Then we're gonna go to Versus here. He's gonna pick up Ninetales. So we actually have both Sunsetters go, which usually doesn't happen.
Yeah, the reason for Ninetales, it looks a little bit odd to take Sun here, because I have the Root, which, I mean, it has a good ability for the Sun, but the main reason was I needed a good Fire-type Pokemon and a Pokemon in a high speed tier. I hadn't the 100 speed tier, I have 105 or 110, and I thought Ninetales would fit in quite nicely here. We have the Drought, so we have a lot of hard-hitting stuff. You can play it a little bit more defensive with Pain Split. If you want, you can go with the Will-O-Wisp variant. I just thought that could be good, and later in the season, I can also make some adjustments and taking a Chlorophyll Sweeper later if I see, okay, there's one mon that really does not fit on the team, so I thought that would give me the most opportunities for the future. I was really for a good fire type. There were Charizard was okay that was left, and I was for Turtonator, but then in the end I thought, okay, I have a lot of points left, so I hope it will work. I never used it in a draft league, so I will see what it brings to me.
We'll see. And then we have Diet here, Rotom Fan, which probably is the least used Rotom here, but in general, this thing getting Nasty Plot makes it maybe a little bit more viable here. Of course, you have to run that air balloon on the dough every time you use it. Cannot be anything else because the meme says.
No.
Has to be air balloon. No, but in general, for 40 points, I guess this is a pretty decent pickup here in the late draft. Full switches there. Ash Slash to deal with grass types that may want to switch in on Electric Stab. Nasty Plot, Defog, Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, stuff like that. Can really be easy to use in that sense. Then for JV we have regular Sand Slash, which of course does get the Stealth Rock, Knockoff, Rapid Spin, decently physically bulky mon, but that's pretty much what we can ask for, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it gets also spikes if I wanted to put some extra hazards up as well.
Yeah, I'm still need to get used to that thing getting spikes now. That's something that you do have to look up as well. And then we had Slowking go, we had Slowbro go, now we have Galarian Slowbro go. Which hopefully we won't see too many quick claw sets together, which outspeeding some things, swaying things your way. But in general, this thing with its move, like shell side armor or something like that, really cool mod in general to use. One of our points, people still don't really know what placement it has in League format, so maybe we can see what Olivia can do with it here, and let's see if this thing can shine or not in the format. And then for Frosted, which is going to make their last wheel, they're going to be ending off the draft as well, but they're going to pick their last back-to-back monster here, starting with a Polisand, which is going to offer them a defensive ground type, which they still didn't have, unless you want to run Silvally Ground every single week. Again, I'm not too big of a fan of defensive ghost types. The Decidueye Polisand together share those weaknesses, but and also Bronzong being weak to it. But they do have the toys to play around it, even though it might force Silvally sometimes to be certain typings. But they do have the Skuntank, obviously, to take like Dark and Ghost hits, so that's something they may want to be looking into. And then the last thing is going to be, the last wheel completion is going to be Volcarona, who is still chilling here. They had the points for it, and they're picking up Volcarona in round 10, which obviously benefits heavily from having to do boots. And with Veil, this thing can be actually really hard to take care of, especially with Roost.
I think it's the same thing as, for example, a Mimikyu. That is always win condition. You click one quiver dance and it's over. It's really, you only need that one quiver dance and it can sweep your entire team.
Yeah.
So
You
drafting
can
that
misplay the
around-
whole game and still lose to Volcarona. Like you can,
Yeah,
like, you still win with
totally.
Volcarona. Yeah, it's
Totally.
crazy.
And with that heavy duty boots, it's gotten so much better than before.
Yeah, for sure. Then going to Olivia, who's gonna pick up Blissey here, which was still around. So they're going to focus on some bulk, I guess, in the later rounds of the draft, where Blissey, really good special wall here. Corviknight, really good physical wall, so it's gonna be really hard to take both of them down together. So it's gonna be something here. Then we're going back to JV, who's gonna have Pinsir here for 20 points, which I've seen Pinsir being drafted a few times, but not all too much.
When I saw it, I was like, wow, it's really cheap. It's like a very cheap Heracross because it does everything Heracross can do. It's just not fighting type, so it doesn't get the close combat stat, but it also gets access to Stealth Rocks. Base 125 attack is nothing to sneeze at, and base 85 is not too bad either.
And like I say, you need to pick up 225 mons here, so
yeah.
you have the Pinsir here.
But I really wouldn't underestimate it with Choice Scarf Moxie. It's in a late game, it's really, really scary with 125 attack.
Definitely. And then we have Garbodor, which is a mon I attempt to pick up later in the draft, but this time it goes to Diet, who I know also does that pretty often in the later rounds, because great Toxic Spike Absorber, can Toxic Spike himself, can Spike stack itself, so really good hazard mon to pick up in the late round to try and put some pressure on your opponent's prep with that. Then for versus we have Dusknoir, which I always have mixed feel. On paper it always looks so good with the moveset it gets, but then I always find myself struggling with it in battle.
That's actually the same thing I thought drafting it. It looks so good when you look at the moveset, but I think it's not too shabby for me to have a Trick Room option. I was really between Dusknoir and Dusclops, but Dusclops would be so passive. I mean, I have such a good defensive core, I guess. So Dusknoir is just here to see maybe we will get that Poltergeist off. Getting Poltergeist is so good for it. I can run Choice Bandit sets. I can run, for example, Assault Vest sets. We have a Shadow Sneak, the next priority move that my team is lacking a lot. So even Choice Band Shadow Sneak. But I know what you're saying. I always don't know if it makes the whole season, but at least I wanted to try it because I thought I wanted to have a ghost type to stop all these rapid spins and so on. So let's wait. I'm really, I like it. I really like to use it.
Let's hope that indeed Poltergeist can make a difference on that mon as well.
Yeah.
Then people who still had some points left are still picking up those higher tier mons. So Mo's gonna pick up Gothitelle, which they can really try to abuse to trap something that can switch in on Dracofish. Like trap that Water Absorber, Energy Ball, and then get it out of the game. Which is something that they're probably looking into and why they made this pick here. And then for Seabed we have a Selgor for 80 points, leaving them with 100 points left on the board. A lot of speed, a lot of hazards, which is mainly what you want to ask for it, I guess, after picking up so many defensive ones. Having something to stack some hazards might be really, really cool. Then we already talked about this. We had Turtonator here, and it goes to Silver Beanie, which is an interesting... Turtonator is also an interesting mon with the moves it gets, but I'm not sure about you, if I always struggles to shine in singles, but it's always one of those mons that on paper seems to offer a lot.
Yeah, definitely. You have the Rapid Spin, which is really, really cool. You have a strong Draco Meteor, but you have also moves like a Flash Cannon to get around these fairies a little bit. So even Choice Specs variants are cool, but I think if you want to use it really nicely, you have to make good predictions. If you make these good predictions with it, with Pokemon switching into it, it can do a lot, but it's so slow and it has a lot of common weaknesses with ground and dragon type, so it's hard to use.
It sometimes is, but maybe this, maybe Silver Beanie will be able to make it shine. Then going to Johnny, who's gonna pick up Politoed. So we haven't seen Palipper, they straight up go for Politoed. So this thing does get Water Absorb, maybe that's why. we might see a 40-point rain abuser as the final one on the team. Which, hey, we're gonna see if that's going to be any good for them to try and add some late pressure for this team. Then Skyrender has Miltank, which I always hate facing Miltank. I really do. This thing is too fat with Milk Drink and stuff like that. UBL, you cannot poison it. Extra Stealth Rocks. This thing is in general just really, really annoying.
I think Miltank is one of the most underestimated mons in Draft League because it can do so many different things. If I would have the points for Miltank at that point, I would have gone for it.
And also something that deals incredibly well with Ghost, which is a pretty busted type right now in our pursuit. So that's going to be fun there. Then Rotom Frost going to the Helsinki Hydreigons, which, not gonna lie, as long as you land your Blizzards, this thing is actually really hard to take down and also switch into, because of course it has the Ice Stab to hit the ground type that want to switch in with the Electric Stab. So really cool options there, assuming you hit your Blizzards. That's gonna be a thing with it. Together with Noivern actually having to land this Hurricane, so maybe we'll see some things happening there, or they'll get no bad voodoo and just land everything. That would be ideal for them, but we're gonna see what goes out throughout this season. And then for me, right number 10, I told you guys we're gonna get another Ghost type, and we're gonna get Poltergeist back, man. I was so upset I had to drop Poltergeist last season, but I really had to improve the team overall. But Poltergeist is here, another thing to abuse setup-wise. That, of course, a Alolan person can really try to get the right stuff in. And funnily enough, the short time I had it last season, I didn't even run Shell Smash. Even though its move pool is pretty limited, I always run different sets. For some reason, I hard countered a Conkeldurr and an Obstagoon with this thing. So with strength sets, it was really cool there. But yeah, I'm happy to have Poltergeist back, and hopefully it can stay on the team throughout the entire season this time and be another asset in the offensive way my opponents have to prep for. And hopefully, because they have to prep for so many other things too, this thing is way more free to do what it has to do. Speaking of special breakers though, with Ultra Player here with the X-Cloud, which I always struggle with this thing. I'm not sure about you, but I always struggle switching on the X-Cloud.
When you use it or when you face it?
When I face it, mainly.
Yeah, I mean, Boom Burst is so annoying. You simply go throw Specs or Scarf on it and go boom, and I think that's really a problem with it. But the problem is for me always when I used X-Cloud, it wasn't that good. But when I face X-Cloud, it was extremely good. So I don't get that Pokemon.
If you don't have a good normal resist, this thing is a monster. And
yeah.
Then we have the Pokemon we've all wanted to be seeing drafted. We have Lucky Wolf, who's gonna draft Twacky for those 20 points, and they have 40 points left for the final pick. But we have the Twacky drafted. We have the other Terrain Abuser here. So let's see how much work Twacky can be putting in here this season.
I don't know. Get Venusaur Grassy Glide? I don't know. I have never.
I actually don't know. If anyone in chat knows, let us know. I don't know if Venusaur gets Grassy Glide.
Then it would be cool. Then it would be not so bad.
I really don't know. Then we have Ruta, who drafts his second mon without priority in Escavalier. They're 10 mons and only 2 don't get U-turn, but Escavalier is a pretty cool mon for this team. I think they can deal decently well with the things you want to fire off at it, and it hits really hard. It actually hits really hard. So there's gonna be one there, and they have 40 points left, so they can actually pick up something there too. Then we have Starmie, which I just now see there's an error on the slide. Starmie is definitely not 20 points, but 120. I just only have 60 left. Don't worry, this is 120, not 20. Otherwise, I would have picked this up much sooner myself. Now, I really love Starmie after the WB right now. It, of course, does get the... what's it called again? It does get the... Teleport, it gets Flip Turn, gets Analytic boosted, Psyshock, Surf, stuff like that. It does get Meteor Beam as well to boost its special attack. I've seen someone use like Meteor Beam, Power Herb, Recycle on this thing, which it does get. So that is something that they that you can try to use. And again, I really love myself this Starmie, so that's gonna be great there. And they're gonna end off their draft with Ditto, which if you have 60 points left and there's a Ditto there, why not? Like, it's not an all cure to set up anymore, but it's still a great mon to try and it's still a great mon that's able to be annoying, and people have to take in mind.
Yeah, it's so hard to set up on when your opponent has a Ditto. So we always you have to prepare for a Ditto, despite not being able to prepare for Ditto, and that's really cool for 60 points.
Yeah, and then we have Root, who's gonna finish off their team with the potato here with the Stunfisk, which you can barely see on screen because it's so flat. But Static Abuser, which is really great for physical things to switch in on. Really could be like for 40 points, it can be a really solid bomb, but not more than just that. Then Bouffalant, which I really hope Bouffalant is able to be better in this generation than it has been before, with like getting close combat and stuff like that. But we'll see if Lucky Wolf will be able to get that out of it and hopefully make this more relevant, because it really hasn't seen much use in Draft League at all, like in any gen. So hopefully we'll be able to see that being a bit more there. Then we have Ultra Player rounding up his draft with Driftbloom, which does get Strength Sap, Calm Mind, could be a very interesting mon, I guess, to try and use in the sense Unburden there too, which, I mean, another Unburden mon together with Haluchas. That's something that they do have. And then for me, you know what, if I have 20 points left, I'm gonna get myself a Trapinch, man. I'm gonna draft myself a Trapinch. And people can laugh at it, but I used it a few times. It has actually killed threats from my opponent, and because it can trap things, it's always in the mind of people that have a high tier electric type, have a high tier steel type, high tier fire type, and they're like, please don't let me be this guy that loses this mounted Trapinch. And solid times it has forced my opponents to run shed shells on those type of mons, which would be great, and at least this is something my opponent always has to keep in mind while prepping, unlike other 20-point mons sometimes do. So, and it has the same attacks as Flygon, so hey, at least we have that. Then for Fabsis, his fairy is going to be Togetic, which I had an Eatable Trophy, kind of disappointed me, but I know a lot of people like Togetic for how bulky it is, so maybe it was just not for me, fitting not on the team in general, but I know a lot of people like this mon. Some do, some don't. So we're gonna see if they are gonna be able to use it as their fairy. They at least have something that can switch in on Dragon hits without just dying. So that's great there. Because Corporatia, of course, ain't that bulky. Skyrander finishing off his team with Bassimian, which also is an annoying mon with Defiant, Choice Scarf sets, Bulk Up sets. You know, all those stuff could be really cool to try and abuse there. Like a dedicated. Dedicated Choice Scarf use for a lot of matches. It does get Gunk Shot too for fairies. Iron Hat too, so you really have to make a 50-50 if you want to run a resist barrier, stuff like that. And then we see, indeed, a Weather Abuser, Beartic, being drafted together with Politoed. So for 140 points together with, for both together, they got themselves a final round Raincore, I guess, which is going to be fun to see if if Beartic can actually shine here on this team, because I have not really seen, I thought maybe they would go for something like a Ludicolo or something like that, which I would have liked to see, but no, it's Beartic, unfortunately. No taste. Then we have Silver Beanie here, who's going to pick up a Alolan Ductrio for a final 40 points, which actually has been rising in popularity. Hits really hard with Iron Hat and stuff like that, and doesn't really have a sense setter around it, but in general, people seem to rate this mon more than they did in the past, so there's that. Then we also Lycanroc does go, we now see Lycanroc Midday go to Seabed, which I guess something else understand, but also of course the ability that it gets, the move that it gets. It's really hard, another offensive threat here to take into consideration. The only thing I see right now though is that if you look at the offense of Excadrill, Toxtricity, Lycanroc, they're all weak to ground. That's of course there is a Tangela, there is the Xatu, they can deal with it, but it's just something to note, which I guess my team is also decently weak to ground, so I'm mad to say that, but it's true at least. And then we have Moat, who's going to pick up Hitmonlee for the final 80 points, a mon I really enjoy using, might abuse some terrains it's going to face, and Rapid Spinner, reckless high jump kicks, hits insanely hard, so really great pickup there in the last round. And also really great pickup in Kangaskhan. I actually really do enjoy Kangaskhan in draft myself.
Kangaskhan was totally an idea of my FO. And he said we need something for the higher speed tier, so the 90 speed tier is quite nice. And you said ghosts are around a lot, so we have that scrappy fake out, that scrappy double edge, but you have really a wide move pool. You can always go with that fake out sucker punch combination to get damage off, and Kangaskhan is not too easy to take out, especially when we have the Clefable around with wish support for it. I think it won't be used in every single battle, of course, but for 40 points, I guess I filled the niche I needed there for the team.
And it's very bulky itself with Wish too, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Then another normal type going, we have regular Persian, which I have yet to see shine in Draft League, but maybe for the 20 points Diet paid for it, he will finally be able to make this thing work, I guess, with Technician and stuff like that, but we'll see. And then for JV, also a normal type here, so we really want those Ghost Switch-ins here with Dunsparce.
It's just the last minute derpy pick. And, you get free glares, free stealth rock.
I guess that's a reason.
Funny.
That's a reason too. Then we have Olivia here rounding off the draft with Chandelure. So a really cool pick to make in the final round. That's still being around. That's still having the points for that thing. Hits insanely hard. Can hit ground type with Energy Ball too. Ghost is really spammable like I said before. And they already took out one of the main counters to this thing in Blissey. So there's a cool pick on there and to end off their draft with. And Frost is actually going to end the whole draft altogether, remaining 20 points on the board with Alolan Sandslash in the last round when they had Alolan Ninetales in the first round. So it took a while, but you can kind of safely assume that no one drafts Alolan Sandslash if they don't have Ninetales, so you can wait for that. And with that, we have the entire draft done. So before we're going to end up the stream, it will be uploaded to the UBL YouTube channel, so if you missed our parts, you can check it out back there. Draft recaps, of course, will go live tomorrow. Sunday is the upload day, so starting next week, week 1, week 2 after that. And of course, you can use !UBL in the chat, so you can find out all the coaches which will be uploading their draft recaps tomorrow. So be sure to check all of those out, and be sure to check the UBL Twitter, the UBL website, UBL YouTube channel, all of that. And I think with that being said, I guess it's gonna be it. So thank everyone for joining. Of course, everyone that was in me with Cole. Do you want to say anything before we head out?
Can't wait to start the season.
Yeah, same.
I'm really hyped.
Speaking of the season, me and JV actually battle in week 1, so it's gonna be going up next week. So let's see who gets that one.
It's gonna be a fun one.
Yes, and also, of course, everyone who had to leave that wasn't Carl, Olivia, Skyrender. Did I forget anyone? I don't think I did. If I did, I'm sorry. Thank you guys too. And of course, everyone in the chat, in the stream who came along, who chatted, who watched the stream in general. And hopefully you guys are excited for the UBL to be back as well. Like I said, !UBL in the chat to find out everything about the UBL for this season. And we will see you guys there. Thank you so much for joining and have a great evening.